you don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 7th part of What If Deku and Hero Academia joins Power Rangers. Smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. It's showtime. UA, High School Ground Beta Observation Room afternoon. In the monitoring room, the students and teachers watched. This was completely amazing with what the Hero Force Rangers did as they announced themselves in front of everyone like that. Even No Yurikara, Ida, Aoyama, All Might, Aizawa, and Vlad King have already seen this. They still couldn't help but be amazed. That was awesome. Mina, Toru, Pony, and Yurikara all cried out in excitement together in sync. Manly, Hiroshima, and Tetsu both said as they pounded their fists together in excitement. What a spectacular roll call, Shizaki said, clapping her hands together with sparkling eyes. Amazing. Truly amazing. This is heroism at its finest, Ida said while clapping his hands quickly. Okay, now that was badass, Oe said with a big smile. And did you see that explosion at the end? So freaking cool, Setsuna said with a smile. That was dazzling performance, but not as dazzling as me of case, Aoyama said. The Power Rangers really do know how to put on a show, Tsuyu said with a blank expression but was still impressed with the roll call. Indeed, makes you think what else they can do, Hirwaro said. Kodai and Amamiya are wearing different costumes than the ones they had on yesterday, Manga pointed out to everyone. You're right, which means they must have different abilities too, Shota said in agreement. I can't wait to see what they can do in those new forms, Sato said in anticipation. Same here, Takoyami said with a nod. Round 2, fight, Dark Shadow said inside his partner as he was watching the action. UA, High School Ground Beta afternoon. At the battle center, Momo and Kendo were completely amazed at the Rangers' roll call and new costumes, while Todoroki still had the same expression on his face, and both Bakugou and Monoma only glared hatefully at the Rangers. Incredible, Kendo and Momo said together in awe. Stupid show-offs, Monoma said in jealousy at Class 1 again. Now this is the bright side, Jiru said, liking her new Ranger form. When Jiru got her new morpher, she saw the memories of the Yellow Dino Thunder Ranger, who was not only a Power Ranger but went on to become a famous singer with dozens of records. She even asked Holotommy if it was possible to download Kira's songs onto a hard drive for her to sift through later. Ren told her that she was an amazing singer and someday would be just as famous as her predecessor. Jiru got a bit flustered at this as she knew he was being completely honest with her and meant every word. Yui nodded in agreement. Bakugou snickers out in laughter. You think some fancy costumes are enough to stop me? He asked. Midoriya got in a fighting stance. Well, those fancy costumes are going to kick your sorry ass all over Japan, he said back. And he was already beating your ass before morphing explosion boy, Ren added in. Bakugou was irritated that the nerd spoke back in such a manner. You worthless pebbles, are you making fun of me? Bakugou shouted in rage. You're smart. Figure it out yourself, Ren said before pulling out his weapons. He held both his legacy saber in his right hand and legacy gun in his left hand. The Red Pirate Legacy Ranger then started to move his left arm around, while skillfully twirling the legacy gun in his hand before pointing it forward at the hero team. Let's make a show of it, Ren exclaimed before firing off a couple of shots at the other team. Momo, Kendo, Bakugou, and Todoroki immediately scattered in different directions as they nearly avoided the gunshots with the other Rangers running at their opponents. Todoroki made a block of ice to shield himself from the gunfire. Ren kept on firing shots, chipping away at the ice bit by bit, as he was running straight towards him before cutting the block of ice diagonally in half, with Todoroki moving out of the way in time, rolling on the ground a few times before stopping himself on one knee. At that moment, Todoroki placed his right on the floor to generate more ice to capture Ren quickly. However, Ren jumped over the ice with a flip and fired at Todoroki in midair with the quirk dual wielder moving back to avoid the shots. When the Red Pirate Legacy Ranger landed on the ground, he rushed at Todoroki, who had no time to make more ice for a long-distance attack. You'll have to try harder than that to get me, Ren said, swinging his saber at Todoroki. I intend to, Todoroki replied as he dodged the blade. Ren kept up the pressure, not giving his opponent a chance to make a move by swinging the legacy saber at Todoroki, who was avoiding everyone's slash to the best of his ability. Ren swings to the left only for Todoroki to move to the right and stretch out his right hand in order to freeze Ren. But the ranger immediately spun back to evade the cold hand and then points his legacy gun at Todoroki before firing at him in point-blank range. "Og!" Todoroki yells out in pain, getting shot multiple times. The red ranger stopped his fire and leaped at Todoroki to closer, then slashed at his opponent 3 times before kicking him away at a good distance, making the boy roll on the ground in pain. "Never mess with a pirate, Todoroki," Ren said before running down Todoroki. Todoroki gritted his teeth in frustration at how much he was struggling against his opponent. He wasn't supposed to get beaten this easily. "Damn it," Todoroki cursed as he waved his arm to summon a large portion of ice to cover a wide area at his opponent. Ren immediately jumps back to avoid the ice as he shoots and slashes the ice away to keep it from reaching him. He then notices Todoroki running on top of the ice before sending more ice to Ren. "Seriously," Ren said before jumping to the side to dodge the attack. "I need more power," he thought as the Red Ranger hit both of his weapons together to open up the legacy cylinders on them. Then he pressed a button on the top of his belt buckle and had 2 ranger keys pop out in the air, landing into the cylinder keyholes on his weapons. Locking the keys in their slots by hitting both of his weapons together again resulted in the pirate legacy logos on both the legacy saber and legacy gun started flashing red, blue, yellow, green, and pink repeatedly multiple times, as the legacy saber blade began to glow bright red, charging up power. "Final wave," a voice from both of the weapons announced. "I don't know what you're planning, but it won't stop me from defeating you," Todoroki stated as he slammed his feet on the ground to summon even more ice at Ren. The red pirate legacy ranger pointed the legacy gun forward at the incoming ice, then shot a red bullet before swinging the legacy saber, sending out a red energy slash from the blade. The red energy slash collided with the red bullet and propelled it forward to increase both the speed and power of the attack as it clashed with Todoroki's ice before piercing right through it. Seeing this made Todoroki's eyes widen in shock and he immediately dove out of the way to avoid the attack. "I already told you, Todoroki," Ren said holding his saber on his shoulder and putting his gun at Todoroki, "is that you don't mess with a pirate." He then fired more shots at his opponent. Yui quickly launched himself at Kendo with the ponytail girl enlarged one fist to block the ranger's kick, pushing the girl back slightly before quickly shrinking her fist and enlarging her other fist for a punch. But Yui used sky powers to fly backward away in the air from Kendo's punch. The Megaforce Pink Ranger landed on the ground a good distance away from Kendo as she took the chance and rushed Yui. Kendo began to punch at Yui with her grown fists at the last second for more impact. Yui quickly was pushed back as she dodged the massive fists. As the Ranger dodged, Yui noticed that she was getting closer to a building. Then she jumped into the air and spun herself over Kendo, attempting to hit her with a downward strike, but Kendo saw this coming and sidestepped away from Yui's kick. Before Yui landed, Kendo, with hands like lightning, reached out and grabbed her left leg. "Not good," Yui muttered in concern. "Your main." Kendo then threw her classmate, attempting to get her to hit a building wall. As Yui was thrown through the air, she used her sky power to stop herself in midair before slamming into a building's wall, then using the wind to hover in the sky above Kendo. "You can fly, but how is that even possible?" Kendo asked in shock as she didn't remember seeing Yui doing any of this at the test yesterday. "It's the suit," Yui said before holding up her Gosai Morpher with her left hand and opening it up, then moving a hatch on her belt buckle and pulling out one of the power cards inside. "What is that?" Kendo thought as she was preparing her for anything the Rangers had. Yui places the Phoenix Shot power card into the Morpher's mouth before closing it with the Gosai Morpher Letch Up. "Summon battle gear," Gosai's voice said as the Phoenix Shot was summoned in front of Yui in midair. "Phoenix Shot," Yui shouted while grabbing her weapon and flew straight down at Kendo, spinning around rapidly as she homed in on the orange-haired girl. Kendo quickly put up her 2 enlarged fists as a shield, but realized her mistake when she felt a gust of strong wind hitting her hands and not her Phoenix Shot. Her next mistake was looking down as Yui slid under her fists and hit her stomach with her weapon. It wasn't a big hit, but enough to lower her fist enough for Yui to try a hammer strike, as Kendo leaned back enough for Yui's weapon to pass by, nearly hitting her face. Kendo backpedaled Yui's weapon to the ground and she quickly dashed forward with an elbow strike to Kendo's abdomen for a counterattack. But Kendo quickly blocked the elbow with a regular-sized hand. Yui then blocked Kendo's counter to her elbow strike and they began to trade regular blows as each of them tried to find an opening. The Pink Ranger had the edge in this fight as Kendo was having a hard time keeping up. Yui saw an opening and quickly dropped to the ground before low sweeping her opponent's legs, which sent Kendo twirling in the air before pointing her Phoenix Shot at her opponent. "Phoenix Shot," Yui said, shooting pink balls of laser at Kendo. Oh crap, Kendo said, enlarging her left hand to shield herself from the blast. The blast damaged the girl's hand as the explosion pushes Kendo back before hitting the ground in pain. Yaoyorozu raised her rubber bullet-filled machine gun and pointed it at Jiru, who also quickly called out some weapons from his belt. Tira grips, Jiru shouted while holding up both weapons in her hands. Yaoyorozu then started to unleash a hailstorm of bullets at the Yellow Ranger. She wasn't going to run out of bullets anytime soon with her quirk. In fact, she has a few ammo packs strapped under her legs, which would definitely last her for 5 minutes straight, or possibly even more than that. Jiru saw bullets flying closely all over her attention body, which she evaded with quick reaction speed. Luckily, Momo was using a machine gun, which wasn't as effective at the range she was at. However, the Yellow Dino Ranger had an advantage in this battle since she had more combat experience than the rich girl. Bullets were just weaker versions of laser blasts that the Power Rangers enemies used, and not only that, but Jiru's suit also protected her from deadly hits. Compared to that life-threatening situation the Rangers go through, this was almost nothing. Focus, Jiru, the Ranger thought as her brain was racing in overdrive. Jiru rose both her left Tira grip and with perfect timing, bent her weapons just enough that the bullet flew off to her side, deflecting the shot another way, and couldn't help but smile. The Dino Thunder Ranger ignored the small victory and proceeded to focus on the next bullet that would have hindered her movements. She didn't even register the shock on her opponent's face as Jiru used her other Tira grip to deflect another that came her way, and another, and so on. In a flurry of magnificent displays of both skill and agility, Jiru weaved through the hail of bullets, the rock girl's eyes solely focusing on Momo's form and where her eyes were directed. Even the Ranger knew that she couldn't deflect, so she moved out of the way by shifting her body to the opposite side where even bullet Jiru couldn't hit with her weapons. She would have been injured more had they been metal bullets, but because they were rubber, she survived that particular blow. Jiru raised a grip ready to block another bullet when the machine gun fired stopped. Momo stared in confusion and pulled the trigger again. Jiru was still a few meters away but widened her eyes in surprise. Jiru noticed it too. The gun was out of ammunition with the rapid fire she unleashed on her opponent. What? Momo blurted out in surprise. However, it provided a window of opportunity. Jiru would not waste this chance before her opponent released her weapon. Momo only had a moment to create a polearm with her quirk before Jiru was upon her. Apart from her being surprised at the speed of the Ranger's step-in, she managed to block a single blow from one of the Tira grip with the Yellow Ranger digging deeply into the polearm halfway regardless of being dulled. But her other Tira grip was still available to use as the Jiru destroys the machine gun with her weapon. Jiru made to kick Momo's arms away with a swift kick from her right leg. But the rich girl leaped away and created another polearm at her opponent. Jiru flipped in the air to move out of the way before slowly landing on the ground. How were you able to last through the hail of bullets? Momo shouted in confusion as her grip tightened on the polearm in frustration. That's not normal. You should have at least flinched from the pain. What can I say? I trained hard, Jiru said with a grin before rushing at her opponent again. Die Deku, Bakugou roared as he blasted at him. However, as he drew near, Midoriya ducked down and swung his leg around and hit Bakugou's leg. Throwing him off balance, Midoriya punched him in the face, as Bakugou used another blast and brought back his balance, which only infuriated the blonde even more. Is that all you got, Kaken? Because I expected better from someone who said to be the next #1, and yet this the best you can do, Midoriya taunted. Deku, you shitty nerd. Don't ever think you're better than me, Bakugou shouted while getting himself close enough to Midoriya to shoulder tackle him. The Green Ranger fell on his back to immediately roll backward and bring himself back to his feet. Just in time, he narrowly shifted his head to avoid a fist from Bakugou and threw a palm strike into his face. Midoriya then kicked under his leg again, forcing Bakugou to trip up until he was met with the backhand of the Green Mystic Ranger and followed up spinning flying kick to the blonde right side. It was enough to force Bakugou back a few feet, gaining his footing while Midoriya stood his ground and pulled out his Magi staff. Magi staff, axe mode, Midoriya shouted as the short staff turned into an axe. What the hell? Did that stick just turn into an axe? Bakugou thought in confusion. Midoriya then slammed his axe down on the ground, sending a wave of green magical energy into the ground, which then moved towards Bakugou as he immediately dodged the attack by blasting himself in the sky. Don't think it will be that easy, you fucking nerd, Bakugou said while rocketing himself at Midoriya at high speed and firing off another explosion. Midoriya blocked the explosion with his Magi axe, then spun around with his weapon at Bakugou, who moved to the right with an explosion to avoid the axe. He swung his hand at Midoriya's head for a point-blank range explosion. Your main now, nerd, Bakugou thought before firing off the blast. Midoriya quickly moved to the right by doing a spinning side jump to avoid the blast and did another as well right back at Bakugou while hitting him with his axe, sending the blonde crashing on the floor in pain. Too bad, you almost had me, Midoriya said in a teasing tone as he was enjoying this. Deku, Bakugou said with a very angry look on his face while standing back up. I'm going to kill your ass when this is over. Do you ever stop being an asshole? Or is it something you can't turn off? Midoriya asked. UA, high school ground beta observation room afternoon. Okay, I know that the Rangers are strong and all, but this is just crazy, Shiro said as everyone in the room agreed. They watched Jiru deflect gunfire, Yui flying in the sky and summon a weapon with a card, ran easily outmatching a recommended student, and Midoriya beating the hell out of Bakugou. They couldn't believe that the Rangers were the same age as them and were this good. I know, right? This isn't even a fight anymore, Kosai said. They're the same age as us, and they're this good, Kaminari said in a scared tone. But how are they this strong? Ajiro asked in curiosity. It has to be those costumes they are wearing, Shoji said, getting everyone's attention. Their power, speed, and combat abilities increase the moment they put those suits on. Not to mention those advanced weapons they have, Takoyami pointed out. It's completely unfair if you ask me. How come they can use all that stuff anyway? Mineta complained. Like I told all of you on the first day of school, life isn't fair and heroes have to fight against it, Aizawa said, shutting his student up. And the Rangers already have permission to use their tech for anything hero related. There will pity of villains out there who relies on weapons more than their quirk. This will be a good experience for you all to learn from this match, Flad King said to them. Damn, Amamiya's ass looks good in spandex, Mina said, smiling with a bit of a blush. I can agree with you on that, sister, Setsuna said with a grin, giving the girl a high five. Mina, talkage, stop being such a perv, Toru scolded the girls. Yes, quite this sinful conversation at once, Shizaki said with her own blush. What? I can't help liking what I like. Besides, I know you both have been checking out Midoriya's ass too, Mina said back with a grin. This made the invisible girl and religious girl's faces flusher even though they couldn't see Toru's face. They wouldn't be the only ones, as all the other girls in the room also looked and had the same thoughts with blushes of their own. Well, maybe, Ryuko said in a hesitant voice. I would never have such a dirty thought, Kinoko said in a low, embarrassing tone. He does look good in spandex, Tsuyu said with a blush across his face. Yes, he does, Tony said with a blush too. He please doesn't speak about Deku and Ren in such a dirty way, Yurikara said, embarrassment clear on her face. Damn you, Midoriya and Amamiya, getting all the chicks' attention, Mineta said, crying tears of envy. Talkage, Mina, do not speak of our classmates in such a way, Ida exclaimed while doing his hand chop motion. The three teachers couldn't help but hear all of this as they let out a sigh. Teenagers, Aizawa muttered in a low, tired voice. Hormones, Vlad said while shaking his head. Kid, those days sure are bold, All Might muttered with a heated face. UA, high school ground beta afternoon. Kendo was having a hard time getting back on her feet as she was holding onto her injured left hand. You're good, Kendo, Yui said. Hold up, Morpher. I didn't want to use this so soon, but it's time to finish this. She took a deep breath. Kendo got back on her feet and watched as Yui pulled out another power card from her belt buckle. What is she doing? Kendo quickly got her answer when she saw Yui opening her Morpher's mouth. Yui places the Twist Tornado card into the Morpher's mouth before moving her Morpher in front of himself and closing the Gosai Morpher as it latches up. Twist Tornado, Yui exclaimed as pink gusts of wind came out of the Morpher as it was surrounding Kendo. Before Kendo could do anything, she was trapped in a whirlwind prison. A whirlwind? Kendo cried out as she put her guard up but could tell that it wouldn't be enough. The wind is too strong for me to break free. She then noticed that the whirlwind was lifting her off the ground into the air. Oh no, Yui then dashes at the whirlwind as the Pink Ranger jumps up in the air and begins to spin rapidly to generate pink wind around her body to break into the whirlwind. She then started hitting Kendo multiple times with her Phoenix shot as well as kicking up the wind around her body, making it impossible for the martial arts girl to attack or even guard against the Ranger's attacks. Before Yui kicked her opponent in the stomach for a finisher, hitting her on the ground as the whirlwind dispels. Okay, that hurt a lot, Kendo said in pain as she looked up to see Yui landing next to her with the Ranger weapon pointing at her. I know when beaten, I give up, she said, admitting defeat. Yui then brought out her capture tape and wrapped it around Kendo's hand. Kendo has been captured. The hero team loses a member. All Might announced the next person eliminated from the match. With her opponent captured, Yui helped her classmate off the ground and held on to her. You okay? Yui asked. A little bruises and banged up, but I'm alright, Kendo said to her. Yui then noticed her injured and had a guilty look on her face behind the helmet. Sorry about your hand. Yui apologizes. Kendo looked at her and said, don't worry about it, Kodai. If anything, it's my own fault for doing something that's stupid. Yui nodded to the girl in response and the two began to watch the others fight. Jiru bolted forward and used both Tira grips to cleave through the well-made polearm, something that Momo seemed to expect after seeing the strong her opponent's weapons were. Momo had let the polearm snap in two but quickly began to make something with her quirk before closing her eyes. It was a flash grenade. Shit, Jiru thought in surprise before a flash of light went off and temporarily blinded the ranger. When the light died down, Momo reopened her eyes to see her plan had worked and brought out her capture tape. I know I can't beat her in a regular fight, but can still eliminate her from the match, Momo thought, running straight at Jiru to capture her. When Momo was close to her opponent, Jiru's reflexes kicked in and grabbed Momo's arms to stop her in place, which surprised the girl. What? The shocked Momo yelled out. Jiru pulled Momo closer, hugging her opponent's body before leaning forward while lifting her right leg behind her back with incredible flexibility to kick Momo in the face, and then quickly separate from the rich girl, before delivering a kick to knock Momo back as the girl slightly lost her balance. Jiru then back handspring before performing a leg split on the ground. Not bad, yeah Momo, the yellow ranger said as her eyesight was returning. But not good enough to stop me. Jiru immediately leaped into the air straight at Momo, who didn't have time to react, as she unleashed a fury of kicks that knocked Momo on her back in pain. Before she could get up, Jiru sat on top of her and pointed one of the Tira grips at Momo's face. You give up? Jiru asked, knowing this fight was over. Momo let out a heavy sigh and knew this was her loss. Yes, you win, she said. Jiru then grabbed her capture tape and wrapped it around her opponent's arm. Yaoyorozu has been captured. The hero team loses a member, All Might announced to everyone. Jiru got off of Momo and held out her hand. You good, yeah Momo? Jiru asked in concern. Yes, I'm fine, Momo said, taking the hand of Jiru, beginning her back on her feet. That was a good fight, Jiru. I had you there for the last second. Yeah, me too. If you tried that on any other person it would have worked, Jiru said with a nod. This just shows me that I still have a long way to go if I want to make it as a hero, Momo said to her. Don't beat yourself about it. You did pretty well in my book, Jiru said, patting her shoulder. Momo smiled at her class for cheering her up and thought to herself, so this the strength of the Power Rangers, Momo thought as she watched Ren and Midoriya fighting against their opponents. And soon I'll be like him. She couldn't wait to do what they could. Todoroki was not looking so great as he was breathing heavily from his injuries and with his right side trembling from frostbite. As for Ren, he was good as a fresh of daisies with his legacy saber over his shoulder. You know, for a recommended student, I expected better than this from you. But this is just disappointing, Ren said in disappointment. I can still fight, Todoroki said, fighting the cold. I know you can, but if you keep half-assing this, you're going to lose, Ren said to him. What are you talking about? I am taking this seriously, Todoroki said back. Don't bullshit, man, I know you're holding back. You've only been using your ice powers this entire fight but not your fire powers yet, Ren said as he noticed Todoroki's eyes in a deep scowl. I don't need that bastard's power to win. Todoroki snapped at Ren as this was the first time he had seen him angry. That bastard's power to win. What does that mean? Holo Tommy thought in curiosity as this seems personal. Todoroki unleashed another wave of ice at Ren, hoping to get him, but the ranger jumped back out of the way in time before landing. Fine, if you don't want to take this seriously then I will, Ren said, pressing a button on the top of his belt buckle again to summon another Red Ranger key, grabbing it with his right hand and then opening up his Mobile 8 with his other hand. What is he going to do with that key? Monoma asked himself. He wasn't the only one. Everyone else watching this was also wondering the same thing. Legendary Ranger Mode, Dino Thunder, Ren shouted, holding up the Dino Thunder red key before flicking it open. Dino Thunder, power up. He inserted the key into his morpher before twisting it, as the Dino Thunder logo appeared in front of the Red Pirate Legacy Ranger, and consumes him to change Ren into a new suit. Ren wore a red suit that had white diamonds across the sleeves on his arms and legs, with his morpher attached to his left wrist. His boots and gloves were cuffed in gold with a blaster hanging on the right side of his belt. The chest insignia was the foot of a reptilian creature with 3 toes and a spur in the back. The helmet resembled that of a Tyrannosaurus, as the visor had a very jagged design that resembled the teeth of a T-Rex with 2 black eyes painted above the visor. Tyranno Power, Red Dino Ranger, Ren shouted while swinging both of his arms around a few times before holding his right arm up in the air to strike a pose. This made Todoroki and everyone else's eyes widen in surprise. UA, High School Ground Beta Observation Room, afternoon. Did Amamiya's outfit just change? Kaminari asked in shock. It did, and it looks kind of similar to Jiru's outfit. Juzo agreed with a nod. You're right. The color is red and the design is slightly different from Jiru's, but it still matches. Shishida pointed out. The helmet's design looks like a dinosaur, Kota said to everyone. It kinda looks like a Tyrannosaurus and Jiru's helmet is a pterodactyl, which means their outfits are dino-related, Setsuna said to the class. Good observation skills, young Takage. All might compliment her. You're right about both young Amamiya and Jiru using powers related to dinosaurs. Thanks, All Might, Setsuna said, scratching the back of her head proudly. Setsuna is a fan of anything dinosaur related before her quirk lizard nature. In any case, I wonder what he can do in this outfit. Bondo asked in curiosity. Probably sometimes awesome considering everything we've seen so far, Rin said, looking forward to what happens next. UA, high school ground beta afternoon. What just happened? His outfit just completely changed, Momo said in complete surprise as she noticed that the costume Ren changed into was similar to Jiru's. That was Legendary Ranger mode, Jiru said to her. Legendary Ranger mode, Momo said as she took out her notebook and wrote it down. What's that? Kendo asked as both Momo and Jiru looked to see the girl being carried on her shoulders by Yui. You lost too, huh? Momo asked with a frown. Kendo just slightly chuckles at the question before saying, yeah, didn't stand a chance. Some here. But back to the question, Momo said turning to Jiru. You said something about this Legendary Ranger mode. By using special keys, Ren can switch into different ranger forms that give other weapons and abilities. But he can only do that when he's morphed into a Pirate Legacy Ranger, Jiru said to her as Momo wrote down the information in her notebook. That's pretty cool. He's like a one-man army, Kendo commented. It is. Yui nodded in agreement. So you can change forms in that outfit. But that won't change a thing to help you, Todoroki said, sending a trial of ice at Ren. Keep telling yourself that, Ren said, pulling out the Thundermax blaster from its holster. Thundermax blaster, he shouted before firing at the incoming ice, completely stopping it. Todoroki gritted his teeth before sending spears of ice off the ground at Ren, as the Red Ranger barrel rolled to the left side to dodge the spears before blasting at Todoroki, who made a barrier of ice to shield himself from the lasers. I need to get his guard down, Ren said as holstered his blaster and brought his Dino Morpher close to his face. Raptor Rider, he shouted into his Morpher. Then suddenly, a portal appeared a few feet behind Ren, and then a red, mechanical, two-legged reptilian, called the Red Raptor Rider, ran out of the portal roaring. What? Todoroki cried out in surprise to see a real-life dinosaur. In the monitor room, everybody, including Aizawa, Vlad King, and All Might had their eyes completely widened as they weren't expecting to a dinosaur coming out of a portal. No way. Is that a dinosaur? Momo asked as she was greatly shocked by this. But that's impossible. Kendo had the same reaction as well. He can't do that. That's just not right. Monoma was unable to process this. Yui and Jiru just smiled at their leader's quick thinking. As the Red Raptor Rider ran closer to Ren, he hopped onto the dinosaur without difficulty. Alright, let's go, Ren shouted as the raptor began to run straight at Todoroki. UA, high school ground beta observation room afternoon. He has a dinosaur, Setsuna shouted in excitement as she watched one of her favorite things in the world just appear like magic. No way. Mostly everyone in the room cried out in shock. I think that's called a velociraptor, Ida remarked as he looked at the creature with widened. But how is that even possible? Dinosaurs are extinct, Kurwaro asked in curiosity. Power Ranger technology truly is something else. All Might thought in amaze as he couldn't get over the things the Rangers were about to build. He just wondered how his best friend David and his daughter Melissa would react to seeing such high-tech technology. They watched him riding on top of the dinosaur and dodging all of Todoroki's ice attacks like it was nothing. That ice guy doesn't stand a chance now with Ren riding onto that dinosaur, Kamakiri said with confidence. Where do they keep getting all this stuff? Rin asked out loud. I don't know, but this is the coolest thing I have ever seen, Setsuna commented as she was so engrossed she was not paying any attention to anyone else in the room. When Red Raptor Rider let out a triumphal roar, she nearly fell to pieces. She was sure she was going to need a new set of panties before this day was over. Wonder if there's a way I can get closer to him, she wondered to herself. UA, high school ground beta afternoon. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, Todoroki muttered as he summoned more ice forward at the ranger riding on top of the raptor. The Red Raptor Rider was able to avoid every single piece of ice sent its way, as the dinosaur was hopping over or on top of the blocks of ice and maneuvering around them quickly thanks to its quick agility and speed. When this was happening, Ren started to notice something from Todoroki's attacks. His attacks are starting to slow down, Ren thought as another ice wave was coming towards him, but the dinosaur reacted by jumping over it and landing on a small building roof before jumping onto an even higher building without difficulty. Is it because he's overusing his power? He looked down at Todoroki on the edge building with his raptor rider. Now could be my best choice to end this fight now. This isn't good. I'm reaching my limit, Todoroki thought as his body was shaking from the cold of his quirk. Mostly half of Todoroki's right side was covered in frost with the air of his breath being shown. I need to finish this quickly. Hey, Todoroki, Ren said, making the boy look up at him. It's been fun, but it's time for me to end this fight. The red raptor rider growled out loud as it started to hop down the wall of the building, straight at Todoroki. Now's my chance, Todoroki said, creating a large pillar of ice that shot up at the Red Ranger. You won't be able to dodge in midair. But the thing was, Ren wasn't planning on dodging the attack. He was going straight towards it instead. Tyranno's staff, Ren shouted while summoning a long staff with a Tyrannosaurus head on the tip of his belt and spanning it around over his head. When the Red Ranger was getting closer to the ice pillar, he smashed his Tyranno staff on the pillar, completely shuttering the ice to make a clear path for his opponent. Todoroki's eyes widened in surprise as the Red Raptor landed on top of himself, pinning him down completely, as he saw Ren pointing his staff at him. You lose, Ren declared with the Raptor rider growling as it lowered its head to Todoroki's level. Todoroki was struggling a bit before finally stopping himself from resisting and letting out a sigh. You bestest me, Amamiya. Just finish it already, Todoroki said in slight irritation as he didn't expect to lose this easily. Good call, Ren said, jumping off the dinosaur and wrapping capture tape around Todoroki. Todoroki has been captured. The hero team loses a member, All Might announced to everyone. You can move now, boy, Ren said, patting the red raptor rider to move out of the way for Todoroki to stand. You need a hand. I can manage, Todoroki said in his usual tone. Thanks, Red Raptor, Ren said to his dinosaur. The red raptor rider roared out loud as it accepted the thanks before disappearing in a flash of red light. What happened to it? Todoroki asked in curiosity. It just returned back home, Ren said to him, as he switched back to being the Red Pirate Legacy Ranger. Todoroki raised an eyebrow as he saw Ren's costume changing back to normal, but he decided not to question it. Good fight, Ren said to his classmate. Todoroki in response just nodded as he was in deep thought. I lost, especially to someone who doesn't even have a quirk, Todoroki thought as his left hand balls up in frustration. I have to get stronger so I can have a rematch with Amamiya. Hey, Ren, a voice called out as Todoroki and Ren turned to see Jiru, Yui, Momo, and Kendo walking up to them. I see that you guys are done with your fights, Ren said to them with his arms crossed. Yeah, it was a challenge all right, Kendo said in a weak, happy tone. Indeed, Momo nodded in agreement as she wrote down everything she witnessed the Rangers was doing. So who won? Ren asked. Obviously we did, you idiot, Jiru said in a joking manner. Yui agreed happily. I know, I just wanted to say it, Ren said before pointing his legacy gun back and shooting the ground, which stopped Monoma in his tracks without looking back, making the blonde boy jump back in fear. And what we're planning on doing with that capture trap, Monoma? Ren asked, slightly turning his head to him. Monoma was sweating and nervous as he was caught red-handed as he was holding his capture trap to capture Ren with his guard down. Damn it, Monoma, you're out of the fight and you decided to cheat, Kendo scolded the boy. What? I was just helping evening things up for our team, Monoma said in his defense. By dishonorable means, Momo said in disapproval. You cheating bastard. Don't you have any shred of honor? Jiru yelled at the boy in anger. Honor? Like class 1 has any honor with that surprise attack from earlier, Monoma said in a matching tone. You would do something in our position too. So be quiet and watch the match already, Ren said in a non-caring tone. I don't take orders from you, Monoma said to him. You will when I tell the teacher about how you trying to break the rules of this battle. And everyone here is a witness to it, Ren said, making the boy go pale and shutting him up for now. Then a loud explosion went off that made him and the other students turn towards it. Stop dodging and let me kill you, Deku, Bakugou shouted out in rage before setting off another explosion. Only a masochist would let themselves get hit by your attacks, Kaken, or do you get off on watching people in pain? Because if you are, I know I'm concerned how you loved to beat up others in the past, Midoriya said as he avoided another attack with ease. You nerd. I'll make you regret ever talking back to me, Bakugou shouted back. Looks like Midoriya and Bakugou are the last ones left, Jiru said. Yeah, Ren said as he paid attention to the fight. You got this, Midoriya. Come on, kid. Show everyone what you're made of. Holo Tommy thought. Midoriya, who still had his calm look, smiled behind his helmet and did a bring it gesture at bakugou before he took his fighting stance. A moment later, Midoriya exploded into action as he jumped while spinning around himself clockwise and sent a reverse roundhouse left kick towards bakugou's head. Bakugou grinned as he leaned to evade the kick, but the expression was wiped from his face when Midoriya, while still in the air from his first motion, sent a snap kick with his right leg that caught bakugou right across the face. Bakugou held his nose as he stumbled back with his eyes strained in pain to prevent the reflexing tears from falling down. He shook the pain away as he saw Midoriya jumping back to his feet after falling on his back to the floor due to the adjustment he had made to his body in order to get that last hit. Bakugou's anger grew even more if it was possible. Stop looking down on me like that, god fucking damn it. I'm above you. Bakugou snarled before he used his explosions to shoot himself toward Midoriya at even greater speeds than before and reached him in a blink. Bakugou lashed out with his left hand, and when Midoriya reacted to evade and counter, Bakugou twisted his hand suddenly so it was facing downwards and released an explosion that changed his trajectory so he flew above Midoriya in an arc. Read this, you fuck. Bakugou thought with triumph the moment he was behind Midoriya, and he lashed out to release a point-blank explosion to his back. However, Bakugou became shocked when his hand found nothing but air. What? Where is he? Bakugou thought frantically as Midoriya seemingly disappeared from his sight, only for him to hear a person shout. Mystic Staff, Earth Power, Midoriya shouted out loud, while Bakugou didn't have time to react as both his arms and legs were wrapped in vines, holding him up in the air. What the hell is this shit? Bakugou shouted as he turned his head to see Midoriya pointing his mystic staff at him. How did he get behind me without me knowing? A few seconds ago. Stop looking down on me like that, god fucking damn it. I'm above you. Bakugou snarled before he used his explosions to shoot himself toward Midoriya at even greater speeds than before and reached him in a blink. Without him noticing, Midoriya pulled out his mystic staff just in case Bakugou tried something. Bakugou lashed out with his left hand, and when Midoriya reacted to evade and counter, Katsuki twisted his hand suddenly so it was facing downwards and released an explosion that changed his trajectory so he flew above Midoriya in an arc. Read this, you fuck. Bakugou thought with triumph the moment he was behind Midoriya, and he lashed out to release a point-blank explosion to his back. Malorium Orvis. Midoriya cast the spell on himself in order to teleport out of the way just in time before Bakugou's attacks hit him. Midoriya then reappeared a few feet behind Bakugou and pointed his mystic staff at the blonde. Mystic Staff, Earth Power, Midoriya shouted out loud as 4 vines popped out of the ground and towards Bakugou, wrapping around his arms and legs. You'll have to do better than that, Kaken. Midoriya thought with a grin on his face. UA. High School Ground Beta Observation Room Afternoon. Back to the present. He can make Vine appear, Shizaki said in pure surprise as she didn't expect that. Not just vines, but trees too, Yurikara said, getting everyone's attention. Back at the entrance exam, I saw him controlling 3 to destroy the FAC's villains. Whoa, that's pretty awesome. Kaminari was impressed. So he can manipulate plants. That's a pretty sick power to have, Mina said with a smile. It's not just manipulating plants, Aizawa said as the students looked at him. In that form, Midoriya can manipulate anything that's connected to Earth, such as the ground, rocks, and plants. He can also use this to communicate with the local plant life, and can command vines and trees to wrap around his opponents like chains, similar to Kamui Wood's quirk. He explained, leaving the students impressed by Midoriya's abilities. Izukumidoriya, Shizaki thought as she looked at the green mystic ranger on the scene with a warm smile. You truly are blessed with such incredible powers. Talk about being green with nature, Ryuko commented. With a power like that, it could make capturing villains easy, Sato said. I wonder if Midoriya can make mushrooms with that power, Kinoko said in interest and decided to ask Midoriya later. But how did he get behind Bakugou so fast? Tetsu asked in confusion. That was a question no one in the room could seem to answer except for the teachers, who already knew the truth about the Ranger's power. UA. High School Ground Beta Afternoon. You're changing things up so I wouldn't be able to read your moves, Midoriya said, holding his Magi staff on his shoulder while looking up at his opponent. Luckily, I managed to plan ahead just in case you might try something like this. Ahug, you motherfucking nerd. Do you think this will hold me forever, Deku? I'll break out these vines and then kill you, along with the wannabe and those 2 bitches you call a team. I'll destroy that fucking suit and device of yours, and if I can't break it, I'll take it from you instead. Bakugou shouted loudly. Everyone who heard that was completely disappointed by the boy's lack of manners. It's like he doesn't care for anyone else except himself, especially Midoriya to a negative degree. Midoriya's eyes went wide, and for a second there, he felt anger boil inside him. He grew up hearing that kind of threats from Bakugou that he didn't care about it anymore. But he didn't like how Bakugou threatened his friend and teammates like that, and went as far as to proclaim that he'd either break the morpher or take it from him just to stroke his ego. Midoriya felt angry but shook his head. He didn't need the emotion to cloud his head now. He needed to focus and win, as he started to say something to the blonde. "I'd like to see you try," Midoriya said with a glare, with Bakugou growling in anger as he knew that he couldn't break out of the vines. Bakugou was struggling to break free from the vines as he was firing off explosions like crazy to get lost, but was unable to hit them. The childhood memories he despised were resurfacing. It was the time when Midoriya was part of his gang until he was diagnosed quirkless and attempted to help him like a weakling. "I'm better than you, Deku," Bakugou yelled with all his might. His voice could be heard all around the battlegrounds as it echoed about 3 times. He was still trying to break the vines around his body, ignoring whatever pain he was feeling right now. "No matter how flashy or powerful your quirk is, I'm way stronger than you, Deku. I will be the #1 hero someday. My quirk is stronger and better than that stupid-ass suit of yours. You're useless and utter trash to society," Bakugou shouted. Talk about an oversized ego, Holo Tommy thought in disappointment. Even some of the Power Rangers villains didn't have this much of a monstrous ego. "You're wrong, Kaken," Midoriya said calmly. "Being a hero or the #1 hero isn't about having a powerful flashy quirk. It's about believing in yourself," he said seriously to his bully. "If you believe in yourself, you can do anything." All Might, who was listening and couldn't help but smile proudly at his successor's wise words. One's own belief can be just as powerful as any quirk if used in the right way. "Believe in your..." "What kind of shitty children nonsense are you talking about, Deku?" Bakugou shouted back. "Explaining it to someone like you would just be a waste of time," Midoriya said, raising his magi staff in the sky, which made the vines lift Bakugou up even higher. "Damn it, let me go," Bakugou shouted at him. "You asked for it," Midoriya shouted while moving his staff. Then the vines around Bakugou slammed his whole body down on the ground hard, which made the boy scream out in pain and created a cloud of dust. "That'll teach you," Midoriya said, putting away his magi staff. "Oh, he's definitely going to feel that in the morning," Kendo said with a cringed smiling face. "You can say that again," Todoroki commented as well. Momo started to notice something. "Is that Ren, Jiru, and Yui weren't helping Midoriya at all? They're just standing there watching the whole fight." "Ren, why aren't you 3 helping Midoriya?" Momo asked, getting the Ranger's attention. "Yeah, I mean, it's not like he needs your help or anything since he's got everything under control. But don't you think it would be easier to fight together with him?" Kendo asked them. "There's a reason why we're not interfering with their fight. Because it's to help Midoriya," Yui said to them. "This only confuses the other teams as they don't know what she means." "What do you mean by helping Midoriya?" Momo asked in curiosity. "I won't go into detail because it's a personal matter, but Midoriya and Bakugou have sort of a history with each other, and this fight is to help Midoriya move on from his past," Ren explained. "Which is why we won't interfere. This is something that Midoriya has to do on his own without anyone's help," Jiru finished. The hero team members stayed silent about this as they decided not to press the matter and decided to watch the outcome of the fight. When the smoke cleared, they saw Bakugou lying on the floor in absolute pain with most of his new hero costume ripped and torn as he was struggling to get back up. He wasn't going to lose here today. Heroes don't lose to anyone, especially to weaklings. "Just stay down, Kaken. You know you can't win, so just give up," Midoriya said to him. "Shut up," Bakugou whispered in a growl, while Midoriya was interpreted. "Shut the hell up already, Deku," Bakugou shouted as he got back on his feet with nothing more than unstoppable willpower. "No way. He can still stand," Midoriya thought in surprise. But then again, this is Kaken he was talking about, and there was no one out there as stubborn as him. "I'm not going to lose to any one of you freaking extras," Bakugou said, feeling wheeze as he was struggling to keep his balance. "It's not over until it's over, you useless pebble. Is this idiot trying to get himself killed?" Ren thought about how stupid Bakugou was acting. It was just a training match after all. Bakugou was heavily panting from his injuries, as his right gauntlet glowed red. Bakugou smirked. "They're loaded," he declared. "Kaken," Midoriya said as he got into a fighting stance. "Why aren't you going all out?" Bakugou asked in irritation. "Huh?" Midoriya asked dumbly. Bakugou growled. "Don't try to act dumb and stupid. I know you aren't going 100%. The power you're using right now doesn't even hold a goddamn candle to the power you used on me earlier before changing into that suit. You know, when your body is creating all that tiny green electricity," he said. "Crap, so he noticed, huh?" Midoriya thought as he realized he had been caught red-handed. He may not be too bright, but he isn't an idiot either. Are you trying to tell me that you can beat me easily even if you don't use that power? Even if you do not go all out? Are you underestimating me, Deku? Bakugou asked as he was clearly pissed. Yes, I can beat Kaken. With or without my power, Midoriya shot back with confidence. Like hell, you can, Deku. With all your stalking, you probably already know. But my quirk, explosion, lets me secrete nitroglycerin like sweat from the sweat glands on the palm of my hand and make it explode. If they made this the way I asked, then these gauntlets will store the nitroglycerin inside them. And Bakugou said as he aimed his arm at Midoriya and began to pull the firing pin on his grenade-like gauntlet. But what he didn't realize was that he was not only aiming at Midoriya, but also the Ren, Todoroki, Momo, Kendo, Monoma, Yui, and Jiru as their eyes widened in surprise. Seriously, Midoriya narrowed his eyes, finally changing expression as he pulled out his Magi staff. Is he going to? Momo said in terror as she felt Ren grabbed her and picking her up in his arms. Grab the others and move out of the way now. Ren ordered Yui and Jiru. Yue, high school ground beta observation room afternoon. All Might eyes completely widened in disbelief as he saw on screen Bakugou pointing his right arm at Midoriya, with the others directly behind him. He can't be, he thought before saying something. Young Bakugou, stop. All Might shouted into the mic connected to the hero team's earpieces. You'll kill them with that blast. The hero students, along with Vlad and Aizawa in the room, looked at him horrified and then at the screen as Katsuki pulled a grenade pin out of his gauntlet. They'll be fine if they dodge it, Bakugou stated to the #1 hero. All Might, this is just a lesson. You must stop this before the others are seriously hurt or worse. Nina cried with wide eyes, most of the other students nodding in agreement with her. Yue, high school ground beta afternoon. At that moment, Bakugou pulled the pin on his gauntlet as an explosion bigger than anything Midoriya had ever seen. Bakugou fired directly at him, and the explosion sent him flying backward from the force of the blast. Its attack potency was so strong that it rocked and made the most of the battlegrounds shake, as Ren was holding on to Momo, Jiru grabbing Monoma and Todoroki, and Yui holding Kendo as the 3 Power Rangers jumped high in the air before the explosion hit them, then landed on top of a building with the students they were carrying. More large explosions in their surroundings, damaging some of the buildings with a few of them collapsing, and destroying most of the street in the process. The explosion was so strong that everyone else in the monitor room could feel it. Is everyone okay? Ren asked them. Yeah, we're good somehow, Jiru said to him. Yui nodded to him. Why yes, I'm fine as well, Momo said, being a little shaken from the life-death experience. Me too, Kendo said, having the same expression as Momo. I'm fine, Todoroki said as he wasn't faded by this at all. You wanna fools just almost killed us, Monoma shouted, pointing at Ren, Momo, Todoroki, and Jiru. I knew you all weren't hero material, you murderers. Yui then hit the boy hard on the head, which knocked him unconscious. If you're going to blame someone, then blame the one responsible, not their entire class, you idiot, Yui said in irritation as she was not in the mood for Monoma right now. That fucking dumbass, Ren yelled in anger. What was that idiot thinking, launching such a powerful attack that almost killed us? And especially in the middle of a city. If this wasn't training, he could have hit someone by mistake, Momo added in her own frustration as she saw the destruction. Clearly he wasn't, Todoroki said in a cold tone. I know he doesn't like Midoriya at all, but this is just plain overkill and stupid, Jiru said in annoyance. Speaking of Midoriya, is he okay? He was caught right in the middle of that blast, Kendo asked in concern. Don't worry, Kendo. He's fine, Yui said, pointing down at the battleground. Look, Yue, high school ground beta observation room afternoon. Oh no, Deku, Yurikara cried out in horror. Midoriya, most of the students cried out loud. Are you kidding? Bakugou just killed one of our classmates, Mina shouted. Did Bakugou just kill Midoriya? Pony yelled in shock. Oh god, we can actually die in these exercises, Minoru cried, biting at the fingertips of his gloves. I did not sign up for this. I just wanted to get girls. Oh Heavenly Father, may you guide these poor souls to heaven and let them be at rest, Shizaki prayed, tears flowing down her cheeks. Damn it for Midoriya. Whoa, this is nuts, Hiroshima yelled in shock. Is Midoriya alright? Shota asked in worry. This can't be happening, Ida asked with wide eyes. Aizawa stared at the screens with a deep scowl on his face. Did Bakugou really launch a deadly explosion at one of his students? He knew Bakugou had bad blood with Midoriya, but he didn't expect the blonde boy to go this far. That's it. I'm going to expel the kid when this is over, Aizawa shouted in pure rage. That damn brat. What the hell was he thinking? Fire something like that off, especially in the middle of a street. Vlad King blood was boiling from anger. Young Midoriya, can you hear me? young Midoriya, All Might said, his mouth close to the microphone connected to the hero team's earpieces. I'm alright, All Might. Midoriya's voice came out of All Might's earpiece, making the pro sigh in relief from hearing his student voice. But how? That blast was too large to he asked by was only cut off. Just watch and you'll see, Midoriya told him. UA, high school ground beta afternoon. As the smoke began to clear, Bakugou felt his grin turn even more psycho-like. Wow, the more that's stored in these gauntlets, the stronger the blast, Bakugou said as his left gauntlet glowed red, signaling that it was completely loaded up. He then laughed almost manically as he looked at the lingering flames of his explosion. Do you still believe you are better than me? Think again, Deku. Use your fucking quirk. I want to break you at your full strength, you asshole. He snarled. As the flames began to die down, Bakugou could see a darkened silhouette in the smoke. That could only be Midoriya. That was slowly becoming more distinct, and his smile died down when he noticed that he was standing in the same exact spot he was before he released his explosion. Bakugou's eyes widened in disbelief when the flames and the smoke died down enough so he could see that Midoriya, with his Magi staff pointing forward, surrounded by a green magical barrier that had a few cracks on it and was glowing brightly as he was shielded from the massive explosion. Bakugou was speechless as he saw Deku had stopped his attack and was looking at him with his eyes narrowed intensely, even though he couldn't see it with his helmet on. Everyone watching let out a sigh of relief or cheered happily to see their schoolmate all right. See, told you, Yui said to Kendo. Oh, thank goodness, I'm glad he's okay, Kendo said with a smile. He put up a magic barrier at the last second before the blast hit him. Holo Tommy thought as he was impressed. The explosion had scorched the floor, but starting from where Midoriya stood, in a triangularly circle-spreading manner, the floor was from scorched damage, and where the intact floor met the street there was also lacking destruction. From that point, some of the street was perfectly intact. Taken trailed off Midoriya seriously, speaking in slight anger for the first time since the start of his fight with Bakugou as he dropped the barrier protecting him. You seriously tried to kill me right now, didn't you? Midoriya asked the boy, gritting his teeth. Bakugou growled with anger and hate. Oh, yeah, I fucking did. Otherwise, you wouldn't have used your quirk. You would have kept looking down on me. Midoriya's eyes narrowed even further. I see. Congratulations then. You managed to make me use more of my power before I stopped your trump card without effort, he said with any kind of infliction of anything other than statins effect in his voice. Are still fucking mocking me. Bakugou almost screeched in hatred as he raised his left arm this time and aimed it towards Midoriya, ready to pull out the pin and cause another similar explosion. Midoriya saw this and acted immediately. Melorium Orvis. Midoriya used the same spell again to teleport in front of Bakugou. He held his hand before he crushed his left gauntlet as Bakugou screamed in pain. He then released him and punched him in his abdomen before backhanding him a few feet away. Og, Deku, you fucker. Just how many quirks do you have? Bakugou asked in unbelievable rage as he couldn't understand Midoriya's power. I always knew you were doing things over the top. But this takes the cake, Midoriya growled out, clearly pissed that Bakugou would pull such a stupid stunt. Phew, Baku said as he was starting to get up from the floor. You've got some nerve, Kaken. What were you thinking? Midoriya asked angrily. I wanted to put you in your place. Bakugou shouted at Midoriya. My place? And that's where? Midoriya asked, more angry than confused. Under my feet, Bakugou said in an arrogant way. What? The ranger asked in anger. You heard me. Under my feet. You're still a loser and that makes you useless. Just because you got some device that gives you a fancy suit like the wannabe, and has a useless quirk, you think that you're hot shit now. I don't think so. So, it's my job to remind you that you are useless. You were always useless, and that you'll always be useless, Deku. Bakugou yelled and looked at him. My god, you're so full of yourself that you think that you're the best, Midoriya said, shocked by his childhood friend's words. I don't think that I'm the best. I am the best. I'm the best upcoming hero to ever exist on this planet, Bakugou said as Midoriya pulled out his mystic morpher. Then best this, you arrogant asshole, Midoriya shouted as he opened up his morpher. Time to try out a spell code. Midoriya then typed in the spell code 883 to activate the spell code before putting his morpher away. Mystic Force Fighters. The Green Mystic Ranger shouted as he moved his arms around before crossing them, then spread his hands down to the side before red boxing gloves with half a gold M and green jewels on each of them magically appeared on both of his hands. Plus, one for all, full cowling 8%. Midoriya thought as green electricity was wildly dancing around his body. He has boxing gloves. Everyone watching except for the Rangers thought in sync. Midoriya knocked his boxing gloves together a few times as tiny green magical sparks of energy coming off of them with each hit, along with the dinging sound of a bell. He then brought his fists together to show the M symbol on the gloves, as it glowed golden for a moment. "Let's get ready to rumble," Midoriya declared before knocking his boxing gloves together again and performing a short back flip. He cracked the floor underneath himself when he landed, the Minotaur insignia appearing behind him with Midoriya started to strike poses before taking a boxing stance as his cape was flowing and rocks were raining down around him. "Deku, why you?" Bakugou shuddered as he was unable to make a proper sentence, looking at the Midoriya with shock before his mouth turned into an excited sneer. "So you finally decided to use your quirk. Now this is more like it. A fight to show that I'm better than you. This is turning out better than I thought it would," he said with excitement in his voice. "Just shut up and fight, Kaken," Midoriya said to him. "I just want to get this over with already. Now you're speaking my language, you shit-faced nerd," Bakugou said, rearing his hands backward as he fired himself at the ranger at full speed. When he was close to Midoriya, Bakugou fired off an explosion with his right hand, but Midoriya immediately slid to the left in blinding speed to dodge the attack. "Don't run from me, you crowd," Bakugou shouted as he launched to the left for another attack. But Midoriya quickly slid to right, this time faster than Bakugou could see. With explosion after explosion, Bakugou tried his best to land a single blast on his opponent. But Midoriya kept on sliding to both the left and right like a professional boxer at a breakneck speed that the explosion user just couldn't keep up. "Stop running and fight me, Deku," Bakugou yelled out in frustration, as sends another explosion. Instead of dodging this time, Midoriya punches the explosion away, which surprises Bakugou. Midoriya then threw a three-piece combo at Bakugou, blocking the punches with his arms, before doing a quick spin to the right as Midoriya threw one more punch at Bakugou's right arm that pushed him back. "Damn it," Bakugou cursed. He may have blocked the attack, but the impact of the blows still hurt like hell. Midoriya then leaps into the air to punch Bakugou, with that said boy crossing his arms for a block to only get knocked back again a few feet, standing his ground. Midoriya looked at Bakugou as he started to practically dance and lightly hop around while in a boxing stance. "Ha, yeah, ha. Dance like a butterfly, strong as a tree," the boy said. "Are you still not taking me seriously, Deku?" Bakugou asked as he was lost in his rage. Midoriya moved up to Bakugou. His opponent started to throw a fury of attacks, with Midoriya easily dodging like a boxer. Midoriya backhanded Bakugou in his right arm, then in his chest, then the face, and right before the Green Ranger jumped into the air doing a spiral side spin and backhanded the blonde's chest as he flew over to the right side. Bakugou swung his left arm for an explosion, with Midoriya jumped up to counter the blast with a punch and pushed the two back. "You fucker," Bakugou said, rushing at the ranger for a left hook. Midoriya ducks under the attack and spun over to the right before punching Bakugou's right side, moving him as the ranger got behind him with another spin. "Now I'm just warming up, Midoriya said before fake kissing his right glove with his helmet as he looked back at Bakugou. Here, Midoriya jumped at Bakugou while spinning his whole little drill as the explosion fired one more powerful blast at Deku, but wasn't strong enough as Midoriya hit his chest with both boxing gloves, knocking him. Bakugou cried out in pain. "Hiya." Midoriya prepared to throw another punch, then suddenly got in front of Bakugou, which made his eyes widen in shock, with the ranger hitting him hard in the face, which sent him flying back on the ground and breaking his nose. "Haha, yeah," Midoriya said, knocking his gloves together a few times. Bakugou rolled on the ground a few times before stopping himself while holding his broken nose. "How the hell did it get this strong?" Bakugou thought as he was starting to regret his choice. "Time to end this," Midoriya stated before leaping incredibly high in the sky. "This isn't over until I say so," Bakugou angrily stated as he launched himself into the sky after Midoriya. "Die, Earth Power, Tree Roots," Midoriya quickly shouted. Then suddenly, multiple tree roots quickly burst out of the ground at Bakugou and grabbed his leg, stopping the boy in midair. "What?" Bakugou shouted in surprise as the roots were climbing up his body to wrap him up before dragging him back down to the ground. "Deku, you worthless shit," Bakugou kept on screaming as he attempted to break free. "I'm gonna kill you." "Sorry, Kaken, but this round's over," Midoriya stated with a smirk behind his helmet as his left boxing glove started to glow bright and conduct green electricity. Bakugou widens his eyes from the realization as Midoriya comes rushing down from the sky. "Mystic Fighter Smash," Midoriya shouted before punching the ground with his left boxing glove. A large portion of the ground began to break, with the fake city street splitting in two as it was traveling towards Bakugou before he was caught right in the middle of a giant explosion that sent him soaring in the air. Ag! Bakugou screamed in utter agony as he flew across the entire battle center at a great distance before crashing right through a building's wall, knocking him completely unconscious. The force of the punch was so strong that it made the whole battle center violently shake again, but this time twice as hard, with the people in the monitor room feeling it, and the students on the rooftops as well. Midoriya stood tall, breathing heavily, and looked at the direction Bakugou flew as he smiled proudly with what he had done. He finally beaten Bakugou. Knockout, Midoriya declared. UA, High School Ground Beta Observation Room afternoon. At this point, All Might was supposed to announce the winner, but he along with everyone else was speechless with how Midoriya defeated Bakugou, and the unbelievable amount of power he has with just one punch. Holy shit, Minta said as he broke the silence. All Might then grabbed the microphone and turned on the tannoy. Bakugou is unconscious and all the heroes are captured. All Might announced. The villain team wins. That was awesome, Sen said in excitement. They were so magnifique. Aoyama commented, happy to have found a sparkling buddy. The Rangers really did it, Setsuna said with a grin. Yui and Jiru definitely showed their girl power. They won. They won. They won. Mina and Yurikara both said together as they were hopping up and down while holding hands. Holy crap. That was awesome. So freaking manly, Kirishima yelled, unable to get over the fight. I know. The villain team totally destroyed the hero team. Tetsu agreed, especially Midoriya with his fight against Bakugou, Tsuyu said with a finger on her cheek. He countered all of Bakugou's attacks like they were nothing, Rin said as he enjoyed the match. That last attack of his was freaking crazy too, Juzo said. Yeah, he was moving and fighting like a professional boxer, Sato said, throwing a few punches like a boxer. Yeah, his movements were flawless, Shota said with a smile, as he was interested in going a few rounds with Midoriya in a boxing match. I'm more afraid of Amamiya, to be honest, Kaminari said with a scared tone. Todoroki was going all out with his quirk, but Amamiya simply dodges them like nothing. On top of that, he is a FREAKIN dinosaur. All the other students gave their own options on the first match and thought how cool the Rangers were. Congratulations, young Midoriya. You managed to defeat your childhood bully and showed everyone what you're made of. All Might thought about his successor. Those kids are really something else. There's no doubt that Bakugou and Todoroki are pretty strong and talented in combat, as well as Kendo, Yaoyorozu, and Monoma to some degree. But it appears that Rangers had more combat experience than the hero team, with Amamiya and Midoriya both being prodigies. However, I could tell that they were somewhat holding back what they could really do, Aizawa thought as he graded the Rangers on the battle trial exercise. The Hero Force Rangers may have won the match and overall performed well, but Aizawa was definitely going to deduct some points for their holding back. But that could wait, as there was one problem that he needed to take care of first. He looked on the screen to see Medbots carrying Bakugou away to Recovery Girl to receive medical attention. He was still irritated with that stunt Bakugou just pulled earlier. He didn't even hesitate when he fired off that explosion at Midoriya, especially in the middle of a city that couldn't have had innocent bystanders if this was a real battle. I need to do something about this problem child before he causes some severe damage, Aizawa thought as he turned to walk out of the room. Vlad King noticed this and stopped him. Hey Eraser, where you going? Vlad asked him. To have a talk with the problem child when he regains consciousness, Aizawa said with irritation in his voice. Vlad King could understand his friend's anger as he was still pretty annoyed with what Bakugou had done as well. I'll come with you too, Aizawa. I'm also concerned about young Bakugou's condition as well, All Might said to him. Vlad King can watch over the class until we return. Got it. Vlad nodded in agreement as the two heroes walked out of the room. UA, High School Ground Beta afternoon. Back in the battlegrounds, Midoriya was still processing his win over his old childhood friend, Bully. I did it, Midoriya muttered in disbelief. I finally beat Kaken in a fight. Midoriya, that was incredible, Kendo shouted, breaking him out of his thoughts. He turned around as the others walked up to him to give their congregation to him. Awesome work, man, Ren said, patting his shoulder. Dude, that final attack of yours was freaking metal, Jiru said to him with an exciting tone. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen such a powerful punch before, except for All Might of course, Momo said with a smile. Yui agreed with a nod. Thanks, Midoriya said with his boxing gloves disappearing from his hands and stopping his quirk. Monoma, who regained consciousness to see Midoriya and Mystic Fighter, only glared at the Rangers with a mix of hatred and jealousy. Damn it, I can't allow Class 1 to be better than us, Monoma thought as he had to get back at them for this humiliating defeat. Then Midoriya noticed Kendo's injured left hand as she was being carried Yui by her shoulder. Kendo, is your hand okay? Midoriya asked in concern. Oh, this? Just a stupid mistake I made with my fight against Kodai, Kendo said, putting on a brave face with her hand in pain. Yui felt guilty for being the one to cause the injury to begin with. That looks really bad, Momo said to her in a worried tone. You need to go see Recovery Girl and get your hand treated. You're right, Kendo said, moving off Yui's shoulder. Hold on, I think I can help heal your hand, Midoriya said, surprising everyone except for the Rangers. You can do that? Todoroki asked in curiosity. Yeah, if she let me of course, Midoriya said with a nod. Kendo thought about it for a moment and gave her answer. Sure, I don't mind, Kendo said with a smile. Okay, just hold out your hand please, Midoriya asked, walking up to the girl as she held out her left injured hand to him. This won't hurt and will only take a second, K. I trust you, Midoriya. So do what you have to, Kendo said, having faith in him. Midoriya then pointed his magi staff at her hand. Finishio. Midoriya cast as green magical energy surrounded her left hand and began to immediately heal it completely. Kendo looked at her hand with a bit of surprise and couldn't feel any pain anymore. Wow, it's healing, Kendo said, clinging to her hand a few times. Thanks a bunch, Midoriya. Then out of nowhere, Kendo gave Midoriya a thank you hug. As sure, it's no problem, Midoriya said with slight embarrassment. Oh my god, a girl is hugging me, he thought before she let him go. So does anyone else need healing? I don't need your help, you cheater. Monoma slightly snapped at him only to get hit unconscious by Kendo again. Be nice, Kendo said in annoyance. No, thanks, I'll be fine, Momo said to him. Same here, Todoroki said. Okay then, Midoriya said with a nod. Tower down, the Rangers said, demorphing back to normal. No matter how many times I see that, it's always impressive, Momo said to them. Yeah, but it can be tried some if we overuse it, Ren said to her before yawning. We should probably head back to the observation room, Jiru suggested. Everyone nodded in agreement before walking away with Kendo carrying an unconscious Monoma with her big hand. You guys go on ahead. I have to go take care of something first, Midoriya said to them as they stopped to look at him. Where are you going? Jiru asked him. I have to go heal my idiot of a friend, Midoriya said as they knew what he meant. Really, Midoriya? Even after all the horrible things he said to you during your fight? Ren asked as he and others heard all the things Bakugou said. Midoriya sighed at the question but could understand how horrible Bakugou was during the match. I know, but it's still somewhat my fault that he got hurt, and has to make it right, Midoriya said to him. Ren just sighed at his friend's kind-hearted nature. You really are too nice, Midoriya. If it were me I would say screw him, he said to him. Some here. Jiru agreed as she didn't like Bakugou either. Yui said with a frown. I still don't understand how someone like him got into the hero course, Kendo said with a frown. Agreed. His behavior is the opposite of a hero course student. Momo agrees with Kendo. Either way, just go heal the idiot and come back, Ren said to him before walking away with the others following him. Midoriya didn't say anything and just walked away to the nurse's office, thinking about how much Bakugou had changed. He doesn't even know what to think of his childhood friend anymore. I guess you really have changed, Kaken, Midoriya thought in disappointment. UA, high school nurse office afternoon. As Midoriya walked to Recovery Girl's office, he saw Aizawa, All Might, Recovery Girl, and Bakugou, who was still unconscious, lying on the bed with quirk-suppressing cuffs on. It looked like All Might and Aizawa were making a serious decision when they turned to see their student opening the door. Young Midoriya, what are you doing here? All Might asked in slight surprise. Shouldn't you be with the other students, problem child? Aizawa said to him. I came here to heal Kaken since it was my fault that he ended up like this, Midoriya said weakly as he paid them no mind. Oh, that's very mature of you, young Midoriya. Despite all of the horrible things young Bakugou sighed and done too. All Might said, uncomfortable with him remembering what Bakugou said during the match. Aizawa had an irritated look on his face with everything All Might told him about what Bakugou said at the match. He was going to make that brat regret his choice of words. The ranger walked into Recovery Girl's room with the woman tutted, and directed them to set the teens on the beds. Somehow I'm not surprised that you already brought me a patient, she said, glancing between the three. You're going to use your ranger power to heal him? Recovery Girl asked. That's the plan, Midoriya said, pulling out his morpher and pointing it at Bakugou. Finishio. He cast a spell and green magical energy surrounded Bakugou's body as his wounds started to slowly heal. The three adults watched the green hair heal Bakugou's wounds, with the blonde boy jerking from the pain even if he hadn't woken just yet. Done, Midoriya said, stopping the healing halfway. I fixed all of his broken bones and healed most of his injuries, but that's as much I'm doing for him, he said, looking away from the blonde in spite. That's fine, Midoriya, you can leave the rest to me. Recovery Girl as she started to bandage him up. So, how would you recommend we handle young Bakugo's actions, Aizawa? All Might asked the other teacher. To be honest, I want to kick his ass out of school and blacklist him from the other hero schools in the country, Aizawa said before Midoriya said something. Mr. Aizawa, Midoriya said in a weak tone as he looked in the other direction from his teachers. I know what I'm about to say may sound stupid and selfish, but can you give Kaken one more chance? This surprised everyone in the room. Midoriya was one of Bakugo's victims and he was still defending him. Young Midoriya, I know that you think very highly of young Bakugo, but this isn't something that we can't simply overlook, All Might said to the boy with a frown. He nearly killed you along with several other students, and he did so without a second thought. He does not regard using his power to hurt others if it means victory. That's not the actions of a hero in training, Aizawa said in annoyance, not to mention all of the hurtful words he said to you during the match. All Might added, I'm not saying you should forget what he's done, but to give him one more chance, Midoriya said to them in a weak tone. Like I said to Principal Nezu and All Might, is that was going to beat some sense into Kaken and show him that he isn't the strongest like people made him out to be when we were kids. He then turned to his homeroom and got into a bowing position that made Aizawa step back in surprise. Please let Kaken stay at UA. I know with some time, he can change into a better person. The green-haired boy requested the teacher. Young Midoriya, you still have that much faith in young Bakugo? All Might thought in sadness as he thought Bakugo was not worthy of his successor's forgiveness and friendship. Aizawa stared at the boy for a good minute before sighing in complete frustration. Fine, you win, problem child. I won't expel him, Aizawa said to him as Midoriya looked up to Aizawa with a weak expression on his face. However, he needs to be punished for what he did here today. I'm not going to let him get away with that, he said sternly. I can live with that, Midoriya said softly before sighing. Meanwhile, Recovery Girl has finished treating her patient's injuries and moved to kiss Bakugo's cheek. There was no indication that her ability had done anything till Bakugo began to stir, and Midoriya quickly stepped back, just in case. His caution was warranted when the blonde started to regain consciousness. Bakugo was groggy when he woke up with his whole body covered with bandages. He was confused about where he was and didn't remember getting wherever he was. As he started to become more coherent, he realized it was a nurse's office. Deku, he defeated me, Bakugo thought to in utter belief. He never imagined in his life that he would ever hear himself saying those words. I didn't stand a chance against him, and he wasn't even using his full power. Then does that mean that if Deku fights me using his full power, I'll be completely destroyed? Does that mean I'm not even in his league? Bakugo rhetorically asked himself. And it wasn't just him either. The wannabe, earlobes, and straight face. They completely destroyed the other extras like it was nothing. How the hell do I even compare to that? He thought in shock. Despite how much he wanted to deny this, to say it was a fluke or that this was all possibly a bad dream and that he'd soon wake up. Bakugo knew it wasn't. Deku, the quirkless kid who despite how much he tried to put him down, always got up, finally did what Bakugo always feared. He rose above him and bested him. But it wasn't just Deku. The three other extras who he just brushed off as not worth his attention or time surpassed him. He had tons of questions popping in his head right now. His panic was becoming more and more evident the more he questioned Ranger's strength. As Bakugo was having his little moment, his eyes stopped and locked onto the green-haired Ranger. As the memory of what happened right before he lost consciousness hit him as he snarled in fury and began to get out of bed. DK. Bakugo growled in rage to attack the nerd and then immediately stopped when he noticed something wrong. Normally when he got mad his quirk went off, and when he looked down he noticed that he was cuffed with a special style that is used by heroes and law enforcement to suppress quirks. Don't bother, those cuffed would even give All Might a hard time trying to get out of them. A voice came from beside him. Bakugo turned to instinctively yell at whoever ordered him to do something, to see his homeroom teacher standing right over him giving him an angry look. And next to him was a very unamused All Might met his gaze. Young Midoriya, would you be so kind as to head back to the monitor room and wait for our return? I believe we need to have a word with young Bakugo. The symbol of peace said seriously, his normal smile absent. Midoriya just nodded before looking at Bakugo one last time with a disappointed look on his face, and then opened the room door, closing it as he followed, leaving a mulish-looking Bakugo alone with All Might, Aizawa, and Recovery Girl, the latter of which had gone into the back area of the nurse's office after she was sure the boy would be fine. Let me out of these damn things right now, Bakugo demanded with a growl before trying to break free once again. No, I have orders from the principal to watch over you if you end up using your quirk in a near-lethal way that could cause harm to any students here and you deliver ignoring instructions to stand down before unleashing that attack. Aizawa's tone grew harsh as walked up to look down upon him. If it hadn't been for Ranger's quick actions, there could have resulted in 8 critically injured students. They would have been fine if they dodged it, which they did. Besides, it was Deku's stupid fault for hiding his quirk the whole time, making me look like an asshole when he could have used that strength of his at any time. Bakugou countered. He did not like how he was being treated like he was some wannabe villain. He was the top student in his middle school, and here they were treating him like he was just like any one of these pathetic extras. Oh really? Aizawa asked sarcastically. That is your excuse for it. He activated his quirk, making his eyes glow red. You were so frustrated in your first training match, and your response was to react like a child throwing a tantrum and unleash a massive explosion towards the opposing team, along with your own teammates, all because your opponent didn't take you seriously. His glare hardened to a hard edge. Whether or not he hid his power from you is irrelevant. The actions we saw you take were entirely of your own volition. Everything you did was your choice. Bakugou didn't have a response for that, so he just seethed in silence. He was supposed to be the next coming rising star from UA. He was supposed the next All Might as a rising star from the moment he stepped into UA to the day he made his heroic debut. He was destined to be the next #1 hero. At every turn there they were standing in his way. The wannabe and Deku had been the ones to save him from the sludge villain. The Power Rangers had been the one to take the top 4 spot at the entrance exams. Lastly, Deku had beaten him in their match. He was beaten by Deku, someone who had no quirk all his life. Good, you do know how to be quiet. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Bakugou. You're far from hero material at the moment. You're just an arrogant kid who got lucky. And unless you can drop your fucking attitude, you might as well pack up now. Are we clear? The teacher snapped back. He didn't often raise his voice, and when he did, you knew better than to argue further. Bakugou's lip twitched, and he turned around, scoffing. It's not like they're worth much anyway. He mumbled under his breath. Excuse me, Aizawa said, catching the words despite the murmurs that were going around the room. Even All Might didn't like that response from Bakugou. What? Why should I care about those damn extras? Especially Deku and the quirkless ass wannabe. Bakugou challenged. They have no business trying to be in the hero course. Right now, I could say the same of you, Bakugou, was Aizawa's chilly response. Like hell, I worked my ass off to go to UA. I earned my spot in the hero course. Bakugou shouted back. You act like you never had to work for anything in your life and treat others like they're beneath you. That has no place in the hero business. Ever. Aizawa lectures. Midoriya and Amamiya plus the other Rangers had to work 10 times harder than anyone else here to earn their spots at UA. They could kill every student in both classes while singing Mary Had a Little Lamb. Nobody is invincible, and every hero needs to learn that before they even try to go out into the field. Aizawa's eye twitches in frustration. And don't go saying that people aren't worth much. You never know what anyone is capable of, especially if you look down on them like that. They were the ones looking down on me. Bakugou finally gets the ability to voice his words back. Really? Because you look awfully up there from the perspective of your kid. Aizawa raises a single eyebrow. Again, who is looking down on who? Here, Bakugou. He asks again. Bakugou clicks his tongue in annoyance as he doesn't get the message, so Aizawa tries a different approach. Do I need to remind you that there are some heroes that have quirks the same as a quirkless person too? Aizawa said to him, which made Bakugou's eyes widen. Even if you're quirkless, you could still do something. Take me as an example. My quirk could only stop them from activating their quirks, but when it comes to mutant-type quirks, it can only stop them from using them. But I mostly rely on my combat skills, Aizawa stated while he looked at Bakugou with a stern face. Do not, I dare you, do not say that a quirkless person can do nothing. They are equal to people with useless quirks. Bakugou's hands clenched in anger as he didn't want to accept that fact due to his pride. So this is what is going to happen to you right now. Effective immediately, you are suspended from any hero training activities until further notice. Aizawa watched as his words hit Bakugou where they hurt the most, right in his pride, causing him to have a completely shocked look on his face. I would have expelled you on the spot for that stunt you pulled today, but due to a certain individual, I'm willing to give you one more chance to redeem yourself. He was tempted to write the expulsion paperwork when Midoriya begged him to keep Bakugou at UA. I'll decide more about your punishment tomorrow when I have a chat with the principal about your actions today. I suggest you be on your best behavior as your future is in the balance, Aizawa said while removing the cuffs from his student's wrist. Bakugou bit his tongue to keep from swearing as he was just fumed and raged in his mind. There was a moment of silence before All Might finally spoke up. Why are you here, young Bakugou? All Might asked the boy in a calm tone but was angry on the inside. Because Deku caught me by surprise, the blonde said, teeth gritting together so hard they were in danger of breaking at having to say that. I meant here, at UA. All Might clarified. When Bakugou looked at him in confusion, he continued. It can't be because you want to be a hero, because what I saw earlier was more worthy of a villain than a hero. Bakugou paled, staring at the serious hero with wide eyes, feeling like he'd just been punched in the gut. What? When the match started, you not only ignored your teammates when they were trying to work with you to beat the villain team, but you fired off a lethal attack that could have taken several students' lives just to get young Midoriya, especially after I warned you not to. You showed no retarded or hesitation in using your support gear on a pointless grudge match against young Midoriya. Not to mention all of the hateful comments you made during a fight with the Rangers. All Might went silent for a moment to punctuate his words before delivering the blow that he knew was needed even without Midoriya's coaching. At this point in time, even if young Midoriya and Amamiya were quirkless and wasn't Power Rangers, I would say they are leagues closer to being heroes than you are right now. You can't be serious, Bakugou yelled, jumping out of bed to stare at All Might in absolute shock. Deku and the wannabe has shown the mentality and will of a hero since the day I saw you three during the sludge villain incident. All Might said firmly with a frown. All they lacked at the time were the skills needed, and that's what UA is meant to be for. The hero wanted to sigh when he saw that Bakugou was still in denial over his words, absently wondering how his colleagues dealt with headstrong teenagers all the time. Maybe he could ask some of them for pointers. Still, for now, they really needed to get back to continue the lesson. He was wasting his time too much. Like what Aizawa just told you, I suggest you fix your mindset, or you won't last long here. Because when I look at you, young Bakugou, all I see is just a battle-obsessed junkie who doesn't know the first thing about what it means to be a hero. All Might said to him with a serious tone. What the F do you mean by that, All Might? Bakugou exploded in anger as Eraserhead used his quirk to stop the boy from doing anything stupid. Of course, I know what it means to be a F hero. Heroes are the strongest and unstoppable. They never lose to any villain, no matter what, just like you. That's where you're wrong, young Bakugou, All Might said with a glare that quieted the boy. I'll repeat what young Midoriya said to you during your match with him, is that being a hero isn't about having a powerful quirk. It is about believing in yourself, which I fully agree with him. Bakugou gritted his teeth at the mention of Deku's name again. But a real hero who wins is the only thing that matters. Bakugou swung his arm to the side. Everything else is shit on the roadside. Real heroes don't lose, or else they're just trash, he shouted in rage. Both adults felt themselves go perfectly still. Everything that Bakugou had said was just more of the stupid bullshit. More of his own overinflated opinion of his own goddamn importance that meant nothing. Jack, shit, nothing. But those last words, it was like a gunshot going off in All Might's brain, an unbelievably deafening roar that made colors dance behind his eyes and a flood of memories pour through the bleeding wound. His hands twitched. Real heroes don't lose, All Might muttered slowly in rage. You say. He felt the breath huff out of his nostrils as his fists slowly clenched, opened, and clenched again. That's right. If a hero doesn't win, then they're just straw, Bakugou shouted back, but that was a mistake on his part. His blood went cold when he saw All Might looking at him very angrily. Then let me ask you something, Katsuki Bakugou. What about the heroes who died fighting villains in order to keep the people they're protecting safe, or the ones who did everything in their power to save a life, but failed to do so? Does that make them trash, Katsuki Bakugou, just because they lost? All Might shouted in full-born rage as he was losing his patience with the boy. Bakugou just flinched back quietly in both shock and fear, as this was the first time he had seen All Might anger at all. All Might then let out a heavy sigh to calm himself down before speaking to his student again. You may have the determination of a hero, but you don't have the heart of one, which is why it pains me to say those next few words. All Might said with a mad expression, as he didn't want to say those words, but he needed to in order to help the boy. Katsuki Bakugou, as it stands right now, you are no hero. Hearing this made Bakugou's eyes widen in unbelievable shock as All Might's words were echoing in the blonde's head. All Might, the #1 hero, the strongest hero to ever exist in the world. The man he looks up to the most and surpasses told him something he thought he never heard. He was no hero. All his life, people told him that he was going to be the next big hero, but now hearing that he couldn't be one from the man who was on the top of the hero world, it was very painful. Like he took a Detroit smash to his pride and there was nothing left. What? Bakugou asked in shock. I said you are no hero, not as you are now. Your views of heroism are both flawed and dangerous. I may be strong, but I wasn't always like this in the past. I lost plenty of times in the past before I became the person that I am today. All Might said to the boy. Defeat is true of all heroes, young Bakugou. We've all experienced it, myself included. But you've never lost, Bakugou said back, as he could never imagine All Might losing to anyone. You're wrong. All Might said weakly. The words stopped Bakugou cold in his tracks, eyes widening. I have lost before, young Bakugou. I failed to save someone once before and her death still follows me to this day. That was my failure, All Might said to him. A symbol of peace invaded his vision, standing in front of him and placing a hand on his shoulder. Back then, I thought that everything could be decided with a punch, that if I simply swung hard enough, every problem in front of me would disappear. I learned very quickly that such a belief wasn't the case. All Might said, "Stop, don't say anymore. Just shut up. You're the symbol of peace," Bakugou pleaded mentally, biting his lower lip. I found myself pitted against an opponent that I couldn't beat by using only my fists. All Might said as he had a look of sadness on his face. You're not supposed to lose, so just stop talking, and Bakugou thoughts were cut off. Take it only as a lesson, young Bakugou. Failure shines a light on our faults and allows us to move forward into the future. With that, All Might turned and began heading for the door with Aizawa right next to him. Now come on, we're wasting class time. We need to review the results of the first match. Whether you win or lose, looking back and learning from your experiences is a part of life, All Might said from behind. Bakugou stared after his departing teachers, his mind unable to process what the greatest hero in the world had just told him. It was so contrary to pretty much everything he'd ever been told in his life, it just didn't seem to want to click into place. Fists clenched at his sides as he ground his teeth impotently. Bakugou stomped after the pros, mind still trying to handle the latest blow to his worldview. Recovery Girl sighed as she was left alone with her work. This is why I dislike students fighting each other. They would seek revenge on the one who humiliated them. Especially for young Bakugou's case, she said with a tired expression. UA, High School Ground Beta Observation Room afternoon. Midoriya opened the door to the monitor room as Urikara turned to see her friend and smiled. Hey guys, look, Deku's back, Urikara said, making everyone look at the door. Then pretty much everyone in the room swarmed around the green-haired boy to congratulate him on his win. Midoriya, that was so manly, Hiroshima yelled in excitement. Yeah man, that was insane, Pony said with stars in her eyes. Watching you fight got me all pumped up, Urikara said while pumping her fist in the air. That finisher with those boxing gloves of yours was an epic, man. I wish I had that type of strength, Tetsu said to him. Yeah, your dodging was super amazing, Mina said to him while hopping up and down. I also liked the part when you went invisible, Toru said to him. I was impressed with how you can control plants so easily, Shizaki said to him. You got to teach me how to fight like that, man. I want to send villains flying away too, Kosai asked. You never stop amazing, Midoriya. I'm glad to have gotten to know you, Ida said to his friend. Thanks, I didn't really know what I was doing though, Midoriya said with a shrug as he put his hand behind his head as his teammates walked up next to him. It was like that when we came into the room too, Ren said to him. Yeah, that just started to hound us with questions, Jiru said with a grin. Yui nodded. I was there and I still can't believe it, Momo said as she couldn't wait to have her own morpher. I hope you all learned a lot from this match, Vlad King said, getting their attention. The Power Rangers may have won, but this was only one battle. There will be a pity of chances for you to shine, so be sure to give it your all in the next battle. Go beyond. Plus Ultra. The whole classroom shouted together. Everyone was talking about how cool the Power Rangers were in their match and couldn't wait to get the chance to fight. Hey, Midoriya, I got a question that's been bugging me, Tsuyu said to him. What is it? Midoriya asked in curiosity. What's up with Bakugou anyway? Tsuyu questioned Izuku. He was actually trying to kill you out there. Yeah, the psychopath fired an explosion that destroyed a city block and a few buildings, Setsuna said with a mad look on her face. And almost killed us if it wasn't for Ren, Yui and Jiru's quick thinking, Kendo said with a frown as she was still upset about the whole incident. Now that you mentioned it, he even tried to attack you yesterday when Mr. Aizawa stepped in to stop him, Shiro said out loud. He kept calling you Deku too? What's his problem? Ajiro asked the ranger. Yeah man, why did you do to Bakugou to make him hate you so much? I mean, I know he is a little angry and loud, but he seems to have some kind of grudge against you, Kirishima said with Midoriya just slowly turning. Midoriya looked at his teammates who nodded at him, giving their support with the boy sighing as he figured there was no point in hiding it. Let me ask you guys, do I have a strong quirk? Midoriya asked the class. At this point, everyone was watching with curious eyes and listening. Yeah, of course you do, Shoji said to him. Does Bakugou have a strong quirk? Midoriya asked, cutting him off. Well yeah, I mean Awase said, but again, Midoriya cut them off by holding up his hand. Well, Bakugou has been told that all his life. He has always been told how great he is and what a great hero he will become. Because of that, he gained a superiority complex that was only matched by his inferiority complex. He can't stand it when others are better than him at something, but he perceives himself above others. Midoriya told them all a little about bakugou. Some widened their eyes, others just kept looking on, knowing there was a little more to this story. Even Todoroki paid close attention to what Midoriya was saying. You see, bakugou has always gotten praise and belittled anyone he deemed lower than him. Someone like me, Midoriya said sadly, which confused everyone except for his teammates who already knew the truth. As Midoriya had such a strong quirk, how could bakugou belittle him over that strong of a quirk? Many of you are confused, I can tell, so let me explain something. Bakugou and I used to be best friends as children. He was still brash back then, but at least he didn't try to actively harm me. But when he got his quirk, that's when the praise started. And I was a late bloomer, so late in fact that I was deemed quirkless, and bakugou started making me his personal punching bag. This shocked others in the room except for the Rangers and Vlad. They knew bakugou was brash but a bully as well. Even Monoma and Kamakiri both gained a slight somber look on their faces. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't the only one, but he is the only one that did it almost every day. This went on for years, about 10 years in fact. No one helped me, none of my teachers, no stranger in the street. The second I heard the word quirkless, it was like I was invisible. It wasn't until 1 year ago that I met Ren and Yui, and was chosen to be a Power Ranger. Midoriya said as everyone in the room looked at the quirkless boy, who nodded in response. It's true, me and Yui met Midoriya for the first time doing the sludge villain include. My mentor showed what Midoriya did that day and decided he was worthy of being a ranger. Ren said to him, which surprised most of the students. A few months later I met Jiru, who was also made into a ranger as well before of her strong heroic heart. Jiru blushed in embarrassment while looking away as she was playing with her jack. After I was made into a ranger, me, Jiru, Yui, and Ren worked our asses off to strengthen both our bodies and skills to be able to get here. Then a week later, after the entrance exam, I got my quirk, which surprised me, so I had to work myself even harder for a month to get it under control before I started UA, with the help of my friends. But I haven't fully mastered it yet, since I can only use 12% of my quirk's power, or else the backlash behind my power will hurt me. Midoriya told them his story as what he said was the truth, but left out a few details so as not to reveal the secret of One for All and the Power Rangers. Many were shocked by how powerful he was with only a month of his quirk under his belt and a year of his ranger powers. Many now looked at him with respect in their eyes, and the unease from his fight with bakugou was gone once they knew the reason. He attacked bakugou so mercilessly, and given bakugou's attitude problem, he must have said something that set Midoriya off. And the craziest thing about this is that Midoriya claimed that he wasn't going all out when he fought because he hadn't fully mastered his just awakened quirk. They were kind of terrified of the idea of Midoriya using his power at full power, and were glad Midoriya was planning to be a hero. Like I said, I've known bakugou since we were toddlers. Midoriya shook his head with a weak chuckle. When his quirk manifested, everyone heaped praise on him for it, which made him develop a major superiority complex. My quirk was dormant because of its complexity, and I had the second toe joint. I was declared quirkless, and from there it was like I was less of a person in his eyes, and then he completely cut off all ties of friendship he had with me, he said in a saddened voice. Hearing this made most of the girls in the room want to cry and hug Midoriya tight, while most of the guys in the room were in a rage and wanted to beat the shit out of bakugou's bullet ass. Even Monoma, who doesn't like class 1, started to grow a newfound hatred for the loudmouth blonde. Todoroki, who listened, felt a little pity for his classmates as he had his own level of abuse. Vlad King's blood was boiling from Midoriya's story. He had half a mind to expel bakugou for the crap he did to him, but couldn't because he was not his homeroom student. He was just happy that bakugou wasn't in his class. What no one in the monitoring room noticed was that they had 4 eavesdroppers. The first was All Might, Aizawa, and bakugou, who were behind the room door as they were about before Midoriya told everyone his history with bakugou. Aizawa decided to punish bakugou severely tomorrow when he had his talk with Nezu, and let him know any kind of harassment means instant expulsion. The second was bakugou, who was outside the door. He and the teachers were about to come into the room when he heard a frog face question. He decided to stay quiet and listen. What he heard at the beginning pissed him off, but then he was shocked by Deku's story that he didn't lie about having a quirk for years like the blonde boy assumed, but just awakened to it last month, and he can only use a fraction of his power. This means that Deku is this strong even without going all out. So if Deku were to fully master his quirk, then he would pretty much be unstoppable. Bakugou feels something he never felt before: guilt. The third was All Might, who couldn't help but be both angry and sad at himself for telling his successor that he couldn't be a hero when he has already had what it took to be one from the beginning. The Master Morpher was proof of that when it selected Midoriya to be a ranger. The symbol of peace was going to do every in his power to make sure that boy becomes a hero even greater than himself. He owes his successor that much for almost destroying his dream. The last eavesdropper was Nezu, who was sitting in his office and watching the match and speech through cameras with Eri, who was watching the fight with excitement as she cheered on Ren's team. He knew Midoriya was a diamond in the rough along with Ren, and he was so glad that Midoriya still wanted to be a hero. Because if he was a villain, Nezu shuddered at the thought. He had to make sure that Midoriya would never turn down that path. But luckily that wasn't something to worry about, since he was a Power Ranger now, and had friends to support him in his hour of need. He was definitely going to make Bakugou pay for the years of pain inflicted on his most promising student, and have those creating Bakugou into the person he is being held responsible. Then Yurikara, Tsuyu, Pony, Shiozaki, Kinoko, and Toru all immediately hugged him as best they could, which surprised the boy. What are you guys doing? Midoriya asked in shock more than embarrassment. You never should have gone through such a painful experience, Deku. Yurikara cried a little. To think you went through some like as a child. The people that hurt you are nothing but demons, Shiozaki said while wrapping some of her vines around Midoriya. I never knew you suffered so much, Midoriya, Kinoko said with a shy tone. Poor Midoriya, Pony said crying. If I see Bakugou again, I'm going to slap him with my tongue, ribbit, Tsuyu said. Get in line, sister, because I want first crack, Toru said holding on to him tightly. Guys please, it's nothing, Midoriya said trying to calm them down. It's nothing, Midoriya. Someone like that shouldn't even be at this school, Kendo said with anger. Yeah, he almost killed you and the others without a second thought, Ryuko added as she was glad Yui and Midoriya were okay. I fully agree. Bakugou's actions haven't been that of a hero student, but a thug, Ida said while clapping his hand. But bro, that's messed up. Kaminari placed his hand on Midoriya's shoulder, a rare serious look on his face. To think your class has a bully in it, Rin said with sympathy. Power goes to some people's heads. Takoyami spoke up to everyone. When confronted with greater ability, a person's worldview can shatter. I mean, I get that. But it's still no reason to be an ass to someone else, Shishida commented as grabs onto his pants, growling a little in frustration. Bullying someone because of their quirk or lack of one is just plain wrong. He should have been corrected on his behavior. I agree. Sato nodded at the Beast student's statement. I knew a guy like that back in junior high. No one liked him. Some for me too. There was this one girl back at my old middle school that was a complete ass to everyone, Setsuna said with a frown. So he was prideful from the beginning. The way people treated his quirk just made his head swell up even more. Learning that Midoriya was quirkless effectively made Bakugou see him as a complete inferior. And now that Midoriya does have a quirk, he can't accept the fact that someone who he thought was weaker than him is now stronger. Honestly, it's a very childish reason to hate somebody, but at least it explains a lot. Shoji summarized from a neutral stance. I thought he was pretty manly, but now I'm not so sure, Kirishima said as he was having second thoughts about befriending him. Man, what a loser. Getting worked up over something so petty, Kamakiri said. He may be an ass sometimes, but Bakugou was on a whole other level. The guy's just a racist bastard. Made me wish I was the one to knock him out, Tetsu said in rage. It's disgraceful. He has no compassion for other people at all, Momo muttered in disgust as others grumbled in agreement with how much of a dick Bakugou is. Bakugou, who was listening outside, couldn't help but get angry at the negative comments about him. It was like they were treating him like a villain. What the hell do those fucking extras know anyway? Is it really wrong to put a worthless bug in his place, who bullies someone based on their quirk or being quirkless? Hirwaro asked as he never really experienced it before. A lot of people actually, Ren said, getting everyone's attention. My situation is similar to Midoriya's, but unlike him, I don't have someone like Bakugou who constantly bullied me. Everyone in the room was reminded that Ren was quirkless and probably had been bullied too. You'd think racism would have disappeared a long time ago by now, but no. Even after quirks appeared in the world, they still have it, and for something as petty as having a cool power versus a weak power, or just no power at all and looking different. It's like the people of our society are unintentionally creating villains, Ren said, making everyone feel uncomfortable with the thought. I can understand that feeling, Nina said with a frown. I was once made fun of for my looks looking too alien. Same here, Tsuyu said. People did the same because of my jacks, Jiru said in silence. Others who shared more animalistic appearances such as Pony, Takoyami, Shishida, Shoji, and Kamakiri nodded their heads too. Vlad King, who was listening, felt their pain and seen many other incidents like that in his line of work. It is unfortunate. but those with metamorphic or metamorphic-like quirks are often discriminated against in this society for their appearance being non-human, especially from purist cults, Vlad King said to his student. Before anything else was said, the door to the room opened revealing All Might, Aizawa, and Bakugou walking in as they were listening to the whole conversation in secret. When Bakugou went into the room, he was surprisingly quiet for the first time in his life with his hair covering his eyes. Mostly all the occupants of the room stared at him with hatred in their eyes when they found out about his bullying history from Midoriya, especially Yurikara, Kendo, Toru, and Shizaki, who felt like hitting the hell out of him. The room was awkwardly silenced with an intense fury in the air from the students looking at Bakugou like he was a villain. Bakugou could feel their hateful gazes but ignored the stares since he didn't care what people thought of him and went over to a wall, away from the other students, and leaned into it. All Might immediately clapped his hands to get their attention, not that it was necessary. The girls hugging Midoriya let him go, except for Yurikara, who was still holding onto his hand as she didn't want to let it go. Sorry for the wait, student. Now that we're all here, let's get into the after-action assessment of the first battle trial. We've lost enough time as it is, All Might said looking around at the teens. Now, who would you say was the MVP in this match? It's Ren, sir. Ida quickly raised his hand in the air to the question. Correct, young Ida, All Might said with a usual smile. The MVP of this exercise is young Amamiya. It makes sense since the Rangers won the battle, Tsuyu said out loud. That's not the reason why he's the MVP, young Asui, All Might said, confusing the other students. Can anyone tell me the reason why? Momo's, eyes closed and face serious, raised her hand. Sir, I can tell you why. When we returned, the Rangers gave us the details of what their plan was while we were waiting for your return. Without waiting for him to answer, she continued, hands still raised and causing the other students to glance over. Ren effectively led his team to victory, bringing out the best of their abilities. Before beginning each battle, Ren made a plan to make the weapon invisible so that the villain team didn't have to watch over it, and make it impossible for us to find. Momo said, continuing her thoughts on the match. Then right before the match started, they were waiting at the entrance and rooftop to ambush us, which resulted in them taking out Monoma first. During the match, they each fought all of us one-on-one, easily overpowering us without much issue before me and my teammates were eliminated. As for the hero team, we didn't have a plan of attack or strategy against the other team because we were constantly fighting with each other. Monoma was overconfident in himself and underestimated his opponent by not bothering to work with anyone from our class and kept on antagonizing Bakugou with me and Kendo trying to stop their fighting. Both me and Kendo tried our best to get our team under control, but it was retarded impossible with the people we were paired with. Todoroki for the most part distanced himself from us at the beginning but worked with us when we were being pushed back. Finally, Bakugou was the most foolish one in the whole fight as he completely underestimated the Rangers. He would downright ignore any help we offered him, charging blindly and at his opponents without a plan, letting a personal grudge against Midoriya cloud his judgment, and firing of a big explosion that destroyed a city block and almost killing us in the process if the Rangers hadn't moved us out of the way, and Midoriya putting up his barrier. We completely lost because we didn't come up with a plan while the other team did and seemed to have more combat experiences than our team did. She finished lowering her hand before opening her eyes. The room was silent for a moment. Everyone was staring at Momo with a surprised look on their faces. Smart girl, Holo Tommy thought as he was impressed. All Might was also surprised by the girl's observation skills. This girl really has a good eye on her, he said in shock. Yes, All Might said awkwardly, raising his finger as he turned slightly towards the side. Well, you overlooked a few things. All Might placed his fists against his hips, but otherwise you nailed it. He gave her a thumbs up and awkwardly laughed after finishing. Aizawa and Vlad just snicker at All Might's reaction. One should always start with the basics and devote themselves wholeheartedly to learning, Momo said in confidence with her hands on her hips and her expression relatively serious. That's the only way to become a top hero. Dang Momo, that was impressive, Ren said to the girl, laughing a little. Yes. Thank you, Ren. Momo nodded with a smile. There was a faint blush on her cheeks from hearing the compliment. Interesting points, young Amamiya, what would you say about it? All Might asked, grinning wryly at him. Seriously, we're doing this already, Ren thought as he just sighed in announce. He then crossed his arms over his chest. You mind if I make a couple of observations and suggestions then? Ren asked the pro hero, who nodded excitedly. Everyone turned to Ren as he addressed Momo. Well, you're right, Momo. The only reason why the hero team lost to us so easily was because Monoma and Bakugou refused to work with each other and the rest of their teammates, he said, with Monoma glaring at him and Bakugou hanging his head down in frustration. Kendo and Momo, be honest with me. If our teams fought again without powers or used morphing, who would win? He asked, and the two girls were in thought. You would, Momo said with a bit of disappointment in her voice. I agree. Kendo agreed as well. Ren then turned his head to his homeroom teacher. Look, ask you the same question, Mr. Aizawa. Which team would win in a straight-up fight without powers? Ren asked him. Aizawa sighed as he didn't even need to think about it. Your team would win without a doubt, he said. Good, neither do I. Not a knock against your other team. You all have good quirks and you're creative, but you don't have a good counter for most of the things we can do. No doubt with minds like yours, you'll figure something out in time, and we're all here to help you with that, Ren said to them, which made the girls smile before he glanced around the room. Anyway, this goes for everyone else in here as well. It's something I've noticed with a lot of the heroes and villains. Everyone is so focused on their quirk, they think it's the only weapon they have at their disposal. If you only rely on your quirk, eventually you're going to encounter a situation in which your quirk is taken out of the game. What do you do then? Look at me, for example. I don't have a quirk, so I rely on my marital arts and gear alone in order to even up the score, he said, making everyone think about what he said. He then looked back at Momo. I want to suggest you learn how to use your weapons more effectively or take some self-defense courses. Your quirk can let you create anything you want, but you don't know how to properly use most of the items you make. There's no such thing as being over-prepared if it keeps you and others alive. Momo nodded, determination blazing in her smile, and Ren smiled at her and then looked at Kendo. Kendo, you're good enough as is since you already know some hand-to-hand combat, but it might be best for you to learn different fighting styles to help improve your technique, Ren suggested. I'll be sure to do that, Amamiya, Kendo said with a smile as she agreed. His smile quickly vanished as he looked at Monoma and Todoroki. Monoma and Todoroki, you two definitely need to learn some hand-to-hand combat, because you might run into a villain whose quirks you couldn't copy or get past your ice without much issue, Ren said to them. Monoma normally wouldn't take advice from someone in class 1 but couldn't argue with the logic behind his words and decided to sign up for some self-defense classes. Todoroki just nodded in response as he was going to start training immediately so he could have a rematch with the ranger again. The rangers then looked at Bakugou, who had been silently sulking the entire time. Bakugou, Ren said with a firm tone, and the blonde boy glared up at him. I hate to admit it, but you got talent, drive, and a lot of potential to become an amazing hero. His stare turned into a venomous glare. But as you are right now, that's impossible. Unless you get that attitude and temper of yours in check. The hell did you say to me, wannabe? Bakugou snarled, striding forward, his hand sparking menacingly. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw All Might tense slightly and Aizawa, Vlad King, along with his teammates about to intervene to stop the hothead. But Ren gestured them off and used his Operation Overdrive powers to disappear in a yellow blur motion. Faster than any of the others could react, Ren had the boy pinned on the floor without much effort. His foot on Bakugou's head and the boy's sparking right arm twisted in the air at an odd angle. Then Ren twisted his arm a little, as the bones creaked under the strain, with Bakugou letting out a pained gasp. Ren had been wondering throughout the entire simulation whether he should get involved in between Bakugou and Midoriya, since this was his friend, teammate problem to handle alone. On the one hand, Ren hated bullies, and Bakugou was one of the worst bullies he'd ever met. On the other hand, he didn't want to fight other people's battles for them, especially with Midoriya's need to move on from his past. Everyone at UA was there to become a hero, and they couldn't grow on their own if Ren was fighting every fight for them. That being said, All Might had asked Ren to help, so he was going to. Bakugou needed to realize that just because he had a strong quirk, it didn't mean he was the strongest one in the room. More importantly, the kid's attitude was likely to get either himself or someone else hurt. Ren may not like Bakugou, but he was doing this for Midoriya's sake, since he still believes his former friend can be a hero if someone beats him. But it looks like the beatdown Midoriya gave him didn't do much to calm down the blonde's ego, so he was going to give it a shot. You so much as twitch or set off a single spark in your palm and I'll break your arm. Now shut up the hell and listen, because this is exactly what I'm talking about, Ren said in a cold tone. It sent chillies down the spines of everyone in the room, as they could tell he was not messing around. You lost because you allowed some petty little grudge to override any logic and reason you had. You think so little of your teammates and opponents that you completely underestimate them by going and fighting alone. I don't know why you hate my Midoriya so much, and frankly, I don't really care. But you need to get yourself under control. Just because you have a powerful quirk doesn't mean you are the strongest person in the room. You're too easily goaded into a fight. One of these days, someone smart enough to figure you out is going to goad you into acting without thinking, or someone so powerful that you can't beat with your strength alone. When that happens, you're going to get either yourself, your teammates, or an innocent bystander killed. The only thing keeping you back is yourself. Learn to control your emotions, get over your stupid little ego, and stop acting like you are some kind of destined chosen one, because you aren't. Everyone is a protagonist in their own story. Not just you, dumbass. You ain't in middle school anymore, and your temper tantrums aren't going to fly. Understand me, Ren told him as he was getting sick of Bakugou's crap. Bakugou growled, under the ranger, but Ren saw the flash of understanding in the boy's eyes. Ren knew that what he had said, and more importantly how quickly he had dispatched him, had gotten through. Also, that little explosion you caused in the middle of the city during the match was beyond stupid. Ren shouted this time, which made most of them flinch. You've destroyed an entire city block because you only thought of defeating Midoriya, and almost got us in the process too. You never consider about collateral damages when you fight. That is not a hero-like behavior. Shut up, you quirkless bastard. Bakugou yelled angrily back before crying out in pain when Ren twisted his arm harder. I thought I told you to shut up and listen to me. Ren shouted out loud in rage. You need to pay more attention to your surroundings when you fight. You could injure someone by mistake if you're not careful. You're lucky that this was just training, because if this was an actual fight with real villains, with real civilians in the area or buildings, you could have killed them. You always say that you will kill someone, but what would happen to the people inside those buildings and streets? You might kill the villains you're fighting, but you also kill all the innocent people you are supposed to protect. Ren said, releasing his ranger aura that made Bakugou flinch, and the room slightly shook with everyone feeling it. You never care about anyone but yourself. You are destroying these buildings and killing the people around you. What kind of hero does that? You might win against the villains, but you lose the civilians. You'll win the fight, but lose the war. Bakugou never once cared about anyone else but himself. He only sees them as inferior, a stepping stone, and weak. Bakugou was too shocked to respond. He may win, but he'll still lose. How can you win and lose at the same time? Ren then let go of Bakugou's arm and stepped back from the boy before stopping the aura he was releasing. As he got up from the ground, Bakugou straightened the ranger in pure hatred. But Ren kept it in mind as he walked back to the others, as they were a little worried about him with the outburst just had. Amamiya is a monster, Mineta thought, shaking in his pants from fear. Some of the girls asked if he was okay, which he answered with a few quick words as he was calming down. What young Amamiya said is true. You might win against the villains, young Bakugou, but you lose all those people inside the buildings you destroyed and city streets. If this was a real battle and you killed everyone inside the buildings and street, you would be charged with manslaughter and had your hero license revoked or sent to prison. All Might claim getting everyone's attention. Stop joking around, Bakugou said, though he was surprised. Am I laughing? All Might asked seriously, making Bakugou flinch. A victory at the expense of the innocent is no victory, Aizawa claims with a glare at the boy. And just because you always win doesn't mean you are the best. And even the best of us can still lose, Vlad King said with his glare. Being a hero is more than just fighting, defeating, or even killing the villains, young Bakugou. You also have to protect and save people as well. But if you only want to fight, then you are a fighting junkie or a berserker, not a hero, All Might said, but Bakugou was still shocked to even listen. The hero then coughed uncomfortably. Right, well, excellent observations and helpful advice, young Amamiya, and I hope you youngsters take what he says to heart. His advice is entirely correct. Now on to the next battle. Actually, All Might, Ren said, raising his hand to get his attention. I'm not sure if Nezu told you this, but I'm supposed to go meet with him in his office once my part in class is over. He did indeed inform me, All Might said with a booming voice. However, wouldn't you prefer to see your peers' matches as well? No, I'm good. I promised Eri I'd get her back as soon as possible, and I ended up keeping it, Ren said to him. All Might grinned at that. I suppose I don't want to make you break your promise. Go ahead and meet with her. I will. Thanks, All Might, Ren said before thinking of something for a quick moment. Oh, All Might, just one more thing. But can Yaoyorozu and Kendo come with me? He asked, which surprised most of the people in the room. What? Both Momo and Kendo said in confusion. Why do you want to take them with you, young Amamiya? All Might asked in confusion. They've been chosen, Ren said to them while also confusing everyone in the room. But the All Might, Aizawa, Vlad King, Midoriya, Jiru, and Yui understand what he meant, as they were a bit surprised that Kendo and Momo were chosen by the Master Morpher to become Ranger. 2 new Rangers, Aizawa thought in approval. More work to do though. Kendo been chosen. Now my class will have 2 Rangers, Vlad King thought. I see, say no more, All Might said happily. young Kendo and Yaoyorozu, since you both finished your battles today, you don't mind accompanying young Amamiya to the principal office? Sure, I don't really mind, Kendo said in an unsure tone. I don't see no problem with it either, Momo said as she was curious why Ren wanted to take them to see the principal. Great, now off you three go, All Might said to them. Ren nodded as he looked at his teammates who gave him a quick goodbye as he and the two girls walked towards the door, out of the room to get to the principal's office. It didn't stop everyone in the room looking at them, with Monoma and Bakugou both glaring at Ren. Okay, so what was that all about? Mina asked in confusion. Yeah, why didn't Amamiya leave with Kendo and Yaoyorozu? Minta asked in jealousy. That's nothing you brats need to worry about right now, Aizawa said to them in a stern tone. I've been worried about who you will be going up against in the next match and finding a way to reach the Rangers' skill level. What do you mean by that? Kota said this time. If it wasn't evidently clear during the first battle, the Power Rangers are currently in a different league than all of you. That is the truth, Aizawa said coldly, only to be annoyed as the class started screaming again. Don't forget that it was Rangers who managed to defeat the other team without much issue, who also had 2 recommended students on them. Oh, please, they can't be that strong, Monoma said out loud. Did you actually think they went all out? I can tell when someone isn't giving it their all, and each of the Hero Force Rangers hasn't even shown half of what they can really do, Aizawa said, shocking the class and making Bakugou frustrated at how much they were holding back during their fight. So they weren't taking us seriously then, Todoroki said quietly as he looked at his right hand. Is that true, Deku? Yurikara asked him. Yeah, we won't really fight at full power, Midoriya awkwardly said. Don't get us wrong, we still took our fight seriously, but didn't put that much effort into it, Jiru said to them. Yui said with a nodded. Just how strong are they? Every student in the room thought in surprise. Alright young heroes, let's begin the next match, All Might said as he drew the balls for the next teams. Heroes, Team F, Villains, Team H, UA, High School hallway afternoon. A few minutes later, Ren, Kendo, and Momo were walking down the hallway dressed back into their school uniforms as they made their way to Principal Nezu's office. Sorry about dragging you 2 out of class like that. Ren apologies to them. It fines, Ren, I'm pretty sure you have your reason for it, Momo said, not being bothered by it. Speak of which, why did you want us to come to the principal office with you? Kendo asked him. I'll explain everything when we get there, Ren said as they reached Nezu's office. But for right now, I need you two to trust me. He then opened the door to Nezu's office. Nezu, I'm back. Before the ranger could do anything else, he didn't expect a white-haired girl rushing straight into him, keeping his balance so he didn't fall over. Whoa, Eri, what's the matter? Ren asked in a bit of surprise. Eri looked up at him and had an excited look on her face. Ren, I show your fight against the other kids. It was so cool and amazing. I never seen anything like it before, Eri shouted out in happiness. Ren's eyes widened in shock as he didn't expect to hear that from the girl. Eri, who do you know about that? Ren asked her. I believe I can answer that for you, Nezu said, getting their attention as he just hung up his phone as it looked like he just finished a call. We watched your entire fight through the TV monitor I have in my office, he said, pointing his paw at the TV monitor attached to the wall. Makes sense, Ren said, putting it together. I have to say, for your first match, you did excellently well, Nezu said before looking at the 2 girls behind him. And the same can be said for you 2 young ladies. Even if you did lose, it was still a good learning experience, he said with a smile. Thank you for your kind words, sir. I'll be sure to take what I learned and become stronger for it, Kendo said with a bow. Yes, it's disappointing that we lost, but I learned a lot from my failure and grew into a hero, Momo said as well. Nezu made a slight chuckle at this before drinking his tea. It's good that you both learned to accept your failures and move on from them. That will do you fine when you become pros. But enough about that. Come in and take a sit. I believe you have something to talk about, Nezu reminded them. Right, Kendo said, walking into the office. Pardon the intrusion, Momo said, walking in next. Eri, have you been a good girl while I was gone? Ren asked her while rubbing her hair. Eri said with a smile. Mr. Mouse was kind to me the whole time, she said to him. Mr. Mouse, Ren said in confusion. I already told you, young Eri, that I'm not a mouse, Nezu responded. Then what are you? Ren asked in curiosity as he didn't know what the principal was. I am the principal, of course, Nezu said with pride. The girls, plus Ren, had a sweat drop on their heads to that answer. That doesn't really answer my question, but whatever, Ren said, picking her up in his arms, which made the girl happy. By the way, who's the little girl, Ren? Is she your sister or something? Kendo asked him as she was sitting next to Yaoyorozu. Yes, you brought her to the class this morning but never told us anything about her. Momo asked the same question. Ren sat down on the other side with Eri in his lap as he thought really hard about the question. I guess you can say she's my sister. Ren said. I'm your sister, Eri asked in confusion as she looked up at him. Yeah, I guess you are now. Which would make me your big brother, Ren said with a smile. Big brother, Eri said, getting a feel for the name before smiling again. You're my big brother now. Yes, I'm your big brother, Eri, Ren said back with a nod. Eri only hugged Ren tightly in his chest as she was happy to have a big brother. So cute. Momo and Kendo both thought with blushes on their faces. Ren patted her back softly as he looked at the girls whom he wanted to speak to. Anyway, Momo and Kendo, Ren said, getting the girls' full attention. The reason I called you all here was to talk to the both of you about something important. He said to them. Something important? Momo asked in curiosity. What is it you wanted to say? Kendo asked him. Okay, just don't freak out with what you're about to see. And Eri, I want you to pay attention to it as well, Ren said to them with Eri and the girls nodding to him. Tommy. Then Holo Tommy appeared in the room right next to the table and it freaked out the three girls. Hello there, Holo Tommy said to them with a hand up. Whoa. Kendo jumped back in surprise. Ren, who is that? Momo said with widened eyes as she backed up a little. Guys, it's okay. He's a friend, Ren said as he was telling Eri that she was safe. Your fear is understandable, but there's no reason to be afraid. Nezu comes calmly and says to the girls, this man is the reason Amamiya brought you here to begin with. Really? Kendo asked in surprise. Yes, really. In fact, he's the reason I'm a Power Ranger to begin with, Ren said, making their eyes widen in shock. They immediately turned their heads to the AI. Man, why you're the one who made Ren into a Power Ranger? Momo asked in surprise. Not just him, but Midoriya, Kodai, and Jiru as well. I'm the one who taught them the ways of being a ranger, Holo Tommy said with pride as he pointed at both Momo and Kendo. And soon it will be your turn. Our turn, they both said in surprise. What do you mean by that? Kendo asked him. First off, let's introduce myself. My name is Tommy Oliver and I'm about to tell a story long ago, Holo Tommy said to make a video screen appear in the air. This is the history of the Power Rangers. UA, High School Ground Beta Afternoon. After 2 hours all the matches ended, and the class was now seen near the exit gate. That's a wrap. Super work. You really stepped up to the pace and we didn't have any major injuries except for young bakugou. You should be proud. All Might gave a thumbs up. Excellent first day of training. All of you still have much to work on if you want to be prepared pros in the future, Aizawa said to the students. But you did well for your first time, Vlad King added to them. It's nice to hear some encouraging words after our first homeroom class, Tsuyu said as the students of one thought of Aizawa having a terrifying smile. All Might almost T-posed and said, I'm happy to bring such staggering positivity to my alma mater. That's all for now, folks. He got ready to run. Now watch how a pro exits. He started running as dust got kicked up. Like he's got somewhere to be. Most of the class was in awe as they watched the number one hero dash away. Okay, now that is a hero, Kaminari said with a smile. That's why he's the number one hero for a reason, Setsuna said too. I'll never be able to run that fast, Ajiro said, dejected a bit. Super awesome, Minda said a bit excited. This school year is going to rock, Oace said to everyone. When I master one for all, will I be able to do that too? Midoriya asked as he watched his idol leave. Alright, enough standing around. You still have other classes to attend, so hurry and get changed, Aizawa ordered as he walked away with Vlad King behind him. Yes sir, the whole class said. All Might turned his head a bit and saw Bakugou, who was still depressed. Young Bakugou is really overflowing with pride. His ego may be justified, but a school like UA is bound to shatter it, All Might thought before he turned in front. I know what I said to him was a bit harsh, but he needs to let go of his dangerous view of heroism if he wants to be a good pro hero in the future. Smoke started to come out, but it'll have to wait. He coughed a bit, entered the elevator, and pressed the button to close it. All Might entered the elevator and started breathing heavily. I can't hold on to this form any longer, he thought before bursting into a plume of smoke. Smoke dispersed to reveal All Might in his true form. I've barely had time to teach a class. Shit. Toshinori cursed his own injury. UA, High School Principal's Office evening. For the next 2 hours, Momo, Kendo, and Eri watched as the Rangers of different generations were shown what it meant to be a Ranger. Their eyes never left the screen until the video was over and they looked back at Ren with amazement. No matter how many times I hear this, it always amazes me, Nezu thought, listening to the story of the Rangers again in silence. Incredible, Eri said with sparkling eyes as she was amazed by the colorful costume heroes. They're so amazing. So those were the Power Rangers, Momo said, starting to understand everything. These guys are amazing and they did all this without quirks. Kendo was amazed to see how they were taking on these monsters and villains with their marital arts and advanced weaponry. Well, for the most part, some rangers were born with special abilities, but those are few and far in between. Many were skilled martial artists or have other natural abilities. Tommy said, trying to keep his voice steady. Each person was selected for a certain skill or ability that would bring the team together to win the fight against evil. While some rangers may have started off evil, but they eventually turned good and joined their respective teams. A team of rangers, Momo asked. She had other questions to ask, but this was higher on the list at the moment. Well, as you can see, the Power Rangers are a team of heroes. They are skilled at fighting separately, but as a team, they are unstoppable, as you can see from the video. Ren said, holding on to his new sister who was enjoying it. My master morpher has selected both of two to become rangers as well. This made the girls' eyes widen in surprise as they were chosen to be rangers. So that's why you asked me to be a ranger? Momo asked in awe. Yes, both you and Kendo met the qualities of a Power Ranger. That's why we asked you here, so you can join the Hero Force Rangers. Tommy said with a nod. Man, this is a lot to take in, Kendo said, scratching her head. Not that I'm interested or anything, but there must be a mistake here. Do I really have what it takes to be a Power Ranger? She asked in doubt. There is no mistake, Kendo. You have been chosen by the Master Morpher because of your skills and character. Tommy said to her. I can understand why you're so hesitant, but the choice to become a Power Ranger is up to you in the end. As Tommy said, this isn't a decision that we'll force on you. Whether you become a ranger or not, we'll respect your choice. Ren said, looking at them with a grin before asking again. So what do you both say? Do you want to be Power Rangers? Without hesitation, Momo was the first to speak. I already told you back in class that I would join you, and I still haven't changed my mind. So yes, I want to be a ranger, Momo said, as she was determined to be a ranger now after seeing their history. That's good to hear, Yaoyorozu, Ren said before looking at Kendo, who still looks like she hasn't made up her mind. So what about you, Kendo? Kendo looked at him before giving his answer. To be honest, I still don't know what to think about all this, she said before smiling at him with a determined look. But I know that it would be foolish of me to not accept such a great offer to become amazing like the Rangers, so I'll join your team as well. She gave her answer. Ren, Tommy, and Nezu just smiled at the girls' answers. Congratulations to both of you, Miss Yaoyorozu and Kendo, Nezu happily said with his paws in the air. Now this is a huge responsibility to live up to, but I know you can do it. Thank you, Principal Nezu, they both said with a bow. Now it's time to receive your morpher. Hold out your hands, please, Tommy asked them. Momo and Kendo excitingly raised their hands forward to get their personal morphers. Ren raised up his master morpher as it started to glow gold, and two balls of light came out of it. One was yellow and the other was red. The yellow light headed straight to Kendo's hand and the red light went to Momo's hand. As the light dies down, it reveals the morphers that both girls have received. The morpher in Momo's hand was the Samuraiser and in Kendo's hand was the yellow solar morpher. The both of them looked in their hands to see their new morphers. Both girls looked at their morphers strangely in awe. This is my morpher. It's just a pair of sunglasses, Kendo said looking at the device. And mine is a cell phone, Momo said opening it up and a brush popped out on the left edge. Looks can be deceiving. Besides, they were designed that way, Tommy said to them. Yaoyorozu, the morpher you received was the Samuraiser. It was used by the Samurai Rangers. They were descendants of the samurai warriors who fought against the Nilok's first invasion of the world and reformed when the Nilok returned. That morpher belonged to Lauren Shiba, the Red Samurai Ranger. She is the 18th head of the Shiba clan and older sister of the Samurai Rangers leader, he explained. Momo looked back at her morpher in impression as she was honored to use the morpher of such an incredible warrior. She can see some similarities between her and Lauren since she will inherit her family's business too. Kendo, the morpher you received was the Solar Morpher. It was used by the Jungle Fury Rangers. They were a group of rangers that were students at Pyjuk Academy, or better known as the Order of the Claw. Tommy said to the girl. The Order of the Claw? Kendo asked with interest. The Order of the Claw is a secret martial arts discipline that trains students in Kung Fu. They believe that every person has an animal spirit deep within themselves, and discovered that with proper training you can unleash your inner animal spirit to become a fearsome warrior. Tommy explained to the girl. That said girl who was listening was amazed by the information told to her. I never knew such a place existed, Kendo said in awe, but then remembered something. But wait, back at the entrance exam I saw Jiru turned into one of the Jungle Fury Rangers and summoned a purple wolf. So that was the power of Pyjuk, she asked. Indeed it is Kendo. That morpher belonged to Lily Chillman, the Yellow Jungle Fury Ranger and Paijuk Master. Her animal spirit is the spirit of the cheetah, which gave her incredible speed. The AI said. Kendo was impressed with Lily's background and glad that she had her morpher. She can see was Kung Fu master and can summon a spirit that gives her even more power. She only wishes to meet her in person. Wow, Eri was amazed by this even if she didn't fully understand what they were talking about. Now get ready for the DNA registration. Holo Tommy said to them as their morphers started to glow again. Then the minds of Momo and Kendo were filled with the memories of the previous rangers who wielded these morphers, as new powers were flowing through them. This power, Kendo said hearing the cheetah spirit growling inside of herself. Amazing, Momo said with a surprised look. Feels good, huh? And that's not all. You'll have 2 more forms when you unlock them. Ren said surprising them. We get 2 more forms. That's amazing. I can just think of the possibilities with these new powers. Kendo said looking at Momo in excitement. All the people we can help and dangerous villains to stop. Momo agreed looking back at Kendo with her own smile. I know you two will make excellent rangers, Ren said getting their attention again. Kendo and Momo, welcome to the Hero Force Rangers, he said to them with a smile. Happy to be here leader, Kendo said to him. Some here will do his best to carry our weight, Momo said with a slight bow. Funny you say that Momo, because there is something you can do to help the team, Ren said confusing her. Huh? Momo said in confusion. That proposal you made during class to help the Rangers. Ren remained her. Oh, right. I suggest that my family marketed the Power Rangers as their Spencers. Momo said to them. That's right, you come from a rich family, Kendo said. That's not a bad idea to get our names out there. Holo Tommy said while thinking. Yeah, Yarazu, is it possible for you to set up a meeting with your parents? I know they're probably busy and don't have time, but with you asking them it might be possible. He suggested to her. Momo smiled at him before saying. Of course, they are most likely busy, but they'll agree to meet you once I tell them about the Rangers. Just don't reveal too much information, okay? This isn't something we just tell to anyone. Ren said to her. Don't worry, I won't. They should get back from a business trip in the next 4 days, so I can arrange a meeting when they return. Momo said with a nod. Great. Also I would like to make you my second in command of the team, Ren said surprising the raven-haired girl. Second in command. Momo replied back in surprise. That sounds like a good idea to me, Kendo said to her. I mean you did pretty much take over the class when you explained the battle. This made the raven-hair girl blush from the compliment. Well, if you think I'm the right person for the job then I'll be second in command of the team, Momo said proudly as she accepted her role. But before that, there's one more thing we need to decide. Ren changed his tone to a more serious one. Everyone in the room noticed this and wondered what he was getting at. What would that be? Momo asked with a raised eyebrow. Principal Nezu, Ren said in a serious tone getting his attention. Yes, Nezu replied. Permission to tell them about Midoriya's quirk. Ren asked him. Nezu was surprised not shocked by the question and know what Ren was thinking. Since the other rangers know about One for All, it was only fair for Momo and Kendo to know too. Permission granted, Nezu said confusing them. Wait, what's this about Midoriya's quirk? Kendo asked in curiosity. Miss Yaoyorozu and Miss Kendo, what we're about to tell you is incredibly sensitive information. I ask you to be careful with your words and actions after learning this, Nezu said in a serious tone that made the girls shake. Is it really that serious? Momo asked him. Yes, it is. Holo Tommy matched Nezu's tone with his arms crossed. If this were to get out, not only will it put Midoriya in danger but also his family and loved ones, he said making their eyes widen in shock. Just like we asked you to not reveal any secrets about the Power Rangers, but also Midoriya's power. Eri, that goes for you too. You can't tell anyone about this, Ren said to her sister. Okay. Eri nodded in response. Kendo and Momo slowly nodded in response as they were a little scared to learn this secret about Midoriya's quirk. We promise not to say a word, Momo said to them. I promise too, Kendo said next. Excellent. Now will you be so kind as to tell them young Amamiya? Nezu asked the ranger. Ren nodded back before looking at them. Okay, Midoriya's quirk real name is called One for All. Ren began to explain. UA, high school front entrance evening. This was the worst day of Katsuki Bakugo's life because of today's events. He just got suspended from the hero course class and was told he wasn't a hero from All Might. He has never felt defeated in all his life when he saw all of his classmates' unique quirks. The quirks he mostly felt superior were the icy hot boy and his former childhood friend or victim, Deku. He also lost to the long-ear girl, blink-face girl, and quirkless wannabe. When did he get so frackin' strong in a short amount of time? Bakugo said clenched his fist as he was walking out the school gate. Why didn't he fight seriously? Did he look down on me? He is just a worthless pebble in the road. And this worthless pebble defeated you fair and square, Midoriya said, appearing behind Bakugou without him knowing. Bakugou instantly turned around when he heard Midoriya. What do you want, Deku? Bakugou asked as he made direct eye contact with the green-haired inheritor of One for All. Are you here to boast your victory in my face? How much more do you intend to humiliate me? You're getting back at me for all the trauma I put you through, isn't it? Bakugou violently answered. I'm not like that, Kaken, and you know it. Unlike you, I don't put people down when I beat them, Midoriya said to him calmly. You lost, felt humiliated, losing to the one person you busted on for years because of your own petty mind after everyone for most of your life been telling you how good you are, he said as he walked right up to Bakugou and looked him in the eye with a glare. Cry me a goddamn river, you big baby, Midoriya scoffed. What? Bakugou growled back. Look at you, you look like you've been told you're quirkless, but no. You're so depressed only because you lost one match on the second day of school. I find it so annoying you're only acting like this because you lost to me. Like you didn't think for 1 second you could lose to me, despite me beating you in the entrance exam and quirk test, Midoriya said, backing away from him. The blonde clenched his fist when the ranger mentioned his love of gloating to those weaker than him. He never liked the feeling of being weaker than anyone, so when he was in the opposite position of what he was used to, he never wanted to hear someone else rub a victory over him in his face, despite the fact that he had no problem doing the same thing when he was the victor. You may have a powerful quirk, but that doesn't mean you are the strongest one there is. I know that there have to be other people out there who could beat you without much issue. Being born with a powerful quirk doesn't make you better than other people, and it certainly doesn't make you invincible. That's something you failed to understand all these years, Midoriya explained. Shut it already, Bakugou said to him. What was that? Midoriya asked. I said shut it already, you nerd. Bakugou yelled out, completely angry. You wanna hear me say it? You wanna break me down? Then fine. I lost to you today. Plain and simple. I didn't even stand a fucking chance against you. No matter what I tried, you always found a way to counter it, and what makes it even worse is that you aren't even giving your all during our fight. It's like I was fighting goddamn All Might. Shit, shit, shit. Bakugou shouted out in frustration as tears were running down his face. I thought you were lying to me about not having a quirk, but I was wrong. He then started to hit his head in frustration. As I watched the ice guy and the wannabe fight, I thought, I can't beat them. The same goes for your stupid girls that are your friends. He then began to remember the words of Ren. Damn it, I ended up agreeing with what that quirkless wannabe said about me firing off a big explosion in the middle of the city. That was so stupid of me. Damn it, damn it, damn it. And lastly, he remembers what All Might told him in the nurse's office. Even All Might told me I wasn't a hero because of what I've done. He yelled out. Midoriya just watched his former friend having a mental breakdown about today's events as he felt petty for him. Bakugou began to calm himself down a bit as he wiped his face clean with his right arm. I was better than you in every way. I was bigger, stronger, tougher, faster, and had a quirk that everybody was shouting from the mountaintops would make me an awesome hero. You had nothing. I was number one. You were dead last. But now things are in reverse. Bakugou said to the nerd that he would never forgive Deku for beating him. Listen well, Deku, this isn't over. Not by a long shot. I'm just getting started. I'm going to teach you of your worthless place, and that is trash among trash. Your fancy costume and quirk wouldn't beat my quirk in the future. I will be the #1 hero no matter what it takes. Mark my words. Tears were flowing from Bakugou's eyes before he turned away and headed back home. With that attitude, that's not possible, a voice said, making Bakugou and Midoriya turn around to see who it was. They say Ren, Yaoyorozu, Jiru, Yui, and Kendo walking up to them in a group. Guys, what are you doing here? Midoriya asked his team. We hear from the others that what you were doing and decided to see if you were okay, Ren said to him. We ended up overhearing your conversation with Bakugou, Kendo said awkwardly before looking at the blonde in anger. You know, Bakugou, we heard a lot of what you did to Midoriya as a child. So what? Big hands. It's none of your business, Bakugou shouted at her. Actually, it is our business since he's our teammate and friend now, Bakugou, Momo said with a glare. What the fuck are you even talking about? Bakugou asked her. Something you don't need to know. All I want to know is how you can live with yourself after all the horrible things you did to Midoriya, Kendo asked in complete anger. Bakugou gritted his teeth in anger as he didn't feel like dealing with those extras anymore and started to walk away only to be stopped by Ren blocking his path. No, you don't get to walk away. Answer her question, Bakugou, Ren demanded the boy with a glare. Move, Bakugou demanded. Not until you answer the question, Ren said back with narrow eyes. I don't have to answer shit, Bakugou said as he activated his quirk. Now move or I'll fry you. he threatened. Guys, please. There is no need to do this. Midoriya protested, but Yui placed a hand on his shoulder to stop him. No, Midoriya, this has to be done, Yui said to the boy. What? Midoriya asked in confusion. Ren told us what Bakugou said to you back in middle school, Momo said with disgust, which made his eyes widen. He did? Midoriya asked nervously. Yes, and after hearing your story about the abuse he put you through, I also want to know why he would go that far, Momo said with anger. Either way, we're getting to the bottom of this and ending it for good, Jiru said to him. Yui agreed with a nod. I said move. Yo, Bakugou was about to use his quirk on Ren, but Kendo grabbed him by his shirt and held him up with an angry look in her eyes. He was your friend, someone you grow up with, someone who looked up to you, but yet all you have done was beat him down for no reason, just to make yourself feel good, Kendo shouted while dropping the boy on the ground. So tell us, why do you hate Midoriya so much? It's because that little shit looked down on me, Bakugou shouted out as he had enough of those bullshit. When he shouted, everything went silence for a few seconds before the blonde got back on his feet and looked at the ranger with an angry look on his face. You wanna know why I hate Deku so much? Why I can't stand his quirkless loser crybaby ass? It's because that fucking useless pebble looked down on me like I was some weakling that needed his help. Bakugou frowned and looked back at Midoriya with a hateful glare. Pretty sure that's where it all started. Yeah, you were an annoying runt who tagged along all the time, but I only really started to fucking hate you was that time I fell into the creek. I fell off that log, but I was just fine. Yet still you, the quirkless blockhead who couldn't do anything right, you came right up to me and asked me if I was hurt. It pissed me off. You were some quirkless wannabe hero and you tried your best to put me down to your level. Bakugou confessed to the Rangers. I was better than Deku at everything. I had a quirk and all he had was this illusion of a dream that his useless self would be a hero that saves people. Out of all people, I was the first person that Deku wanted to save for a quirkless wannabe. That's why I beat the living crap out of him for 11 years straight. I was not someone that was going to be pitied for falling into a creek, and I sure as hell wasn't owe him any goddamn favors. I was going to end his stupid illusion of being a hero one way or another, he said, ending his rant. The Rangers just stared at the boy with not just a look of surprise but one of fury. So that explains it. The reason why he hates Midoriya is because someone he considers weaker helps him, making Bakugou believe that he is weak too. Holo Tommy thought in disappointment, as that was a dumb reason to hate someone. Are you fucking serious right now? Ren asked beyond annoyance. That the reason why you hate Midoriya so much? Is it because he helps you? I'm sorry, Bakugou. I didn't realize that you had to deal with that as a child. Falling down a bridge in an area you decided to go into and having another kid try and help you. That is honestly terrible. Jiru's sarcasm returned as she crossed her arms in mock guilt. So Midoriya was just helping and bullying him was your answer just to get back at him for his kindness, Kendo said with venom in her voice. That really is a stupid and petty reason to hate someone, Bakugou, Momo said in disappointment. Yeah, Yui said in a quiet rage. You extras don't know shit. I never needed help from him. Not now, not ever, Bakugou shouted. Oh, I think we know plenty. You're just a selfish asshole who can't even accept his own weaknesses, Jiru said to him. Asking and receiving help doesn't make you weak, Bakugou. It makes you human, Momo explained to him. In fact, admitting your own weaknesses can sometimes make you stronger, Kendo said, only to piss the blonde off. But someone like you couldn't even understand that, Yui said with a glare. How the fuck does being weak makes you stronger? Bakugou asked in confusion. Bakugou, do you know how many of us were bullied for things out of our control? Do you know how many of us faced discrimination because we had useless or villain quirks? Do you know how many of us were this close to making what you said a reality? Do you understand that we could have lost the next greatest hero and one of the kindest people we know because of you and your stupid ego? Do you understand? Do you? Ren yelled at him until he felt someone touching his shoulder. He looked back and saw Midoriya walking past with his hair covering his eyes. Midoriya? Kendo asked in worry. Midoriya stopped a few feet away from Bakugou, who was looking at him with a death glare. What, you got something to say, Deku? Bakugou asked in pure spit. Because whatever it is you can go fuck. Why? Just shut the hell up for once in your life, Bakugou, Midoriya yelled out in pure rage. This made the blonde step back in surprise, not from just the outburst but the fact Deku called him by his real name. So that the reason you hate me so much, that why you truly thread me like shit all these years, just because I help you. You expect me to be loud and abrasive like you. I thought you got hurt, so I went down there to check if you were okay and to help you. I was not some heartless jerk that I was going to leave you there. But your ego and pride just couldn't handle that someone as nice as me was trying to help you. I don't think you even know what it means to be a hero if you only care about winning and fighting villains, Midoriya said to the bakugou in rage as if something inside of him just snapped. His friends, Holotomi and Bakugou, were surprised by Midoriya's retort. You may be smart, but you can still be an idiot, Bakugou. You still just don't get it. I didn't pity you for falling into a creek. I never pitied you or looked down on you. But in the end, you got away with everything and nobody could stop you. You became arrogant because nobody told you no. On top of that, your pride was as big as your explosions. A flashy quirk for a future hero, Midoriya suddenly growled. Those 7 words made Bakugou realize what was about to set the nerd off. A hero does not bully people. A hero does not put people down. A hero does not hurt people. A hero does not suicide bait people. Midoriya yelled the last sentence very angrily, making everyone flinch. Ren and Holotomi did not stop the young hero in training from yelling. This was a long time coming, and they knew that he had to let off some steam after all the shit Bakugou put him through over the past 11 years. Not surprising to see him explode like this. This has been a long time coming, Ren thought. Midoriya closed his eyes and took a deep breath before opening them again. A hero saves those in need. A hero gives people hope. A hero inspires people, Midoriya said calmly. That's why I wanted to be a hero. That's why I am a hero. Your biggest problem is that if anyone helps you, you're being looked down on. You save someone in need, you consider them to be weak. I looked up to you because of your strength when we were younger, but that was not enough for you, Bakugou. I tried to help you once and you decided that because I was quirkless and you had a quirk, that was an insult to your pride. So you stopped being my friend after that, and it pisses me off so much now. You wanted to put me down because all you were was a bully and I was your personal punching bag. Well, you know what? I'm done with you. Because I have real friends now. Friends who accept me for who I am and support me when I need it the most. Friends that are 1,000 times better than you've ever been, Midoriya said, completely ending his friendship with Bakugou. Bakugou was shocked to hear that from his former friend. Deku just downright ended their friendship for good. But for some reason, it hurt him from the inside to hear that, and he didn't know why. Also, Bakugou, he got the blonde boy out of his shock for him to hear him speak. Despite what you think with that pick of shit mess up, personally if you're, I earn my spot at UA. I earn my morpher. I earn my right as a Power Ranger, and also, Midoriya said while raising his fist up in front of himself as he activated a little of One for All's power in his hand. I earned this quarrel. For the past year now, I used everything I earned to the best of my ability. I honor my power and accomplishments through my actions, and no one can take that away from me. Not even you, Bakugou, Midoriya said, throwing a punch at Bakugou which creates a weak air pressure that sends the blonde boy on his butt in shock. Everyone looked at Midoriya like he was a completely different person and couldn't help but be impressed. Unbelievable. He's doing it. Holotomi thought in impression. It's like I told you back in middle school, Bakugou. Whether you like it or not, you can't stop me from being a hero. So why don't you give up on trying to make me give up? Midoriya declared out loud, leaving stunned Bakugou to his words. Deku, you've changed, Bakugou thought in disbelief, as this was no longer the person he had known all his life. This was a new Deku, one with power, one with confidence, and one that was stronger than him. The other Rangers couldn't help but be impressed with how Midoriya finally standing up to his past bully. Looking cool, Midoriya, Ren thought with a smile before looking at a shocked Bakugou. This is your one and final warning, Bakugou, Ren said in a dead serious tone, getting Bakugou's attention. Stay away from Midoriya and any of our other friends from now on. Because picking a fight with them is the same as picking a fight with all of us. Ren threatened the boy with the other Hero Force Rangers standing next to their leader, giving their support as they stared down the blonde bully. Bakugou didn't have the chance to replay as he gasped with widened eyes at the unbelievable sight before him. Behind the Hero Force Rangers was an army of costumed colorful heroes. Some of them were wearing the same outfit he'd already seen the Rangers had on, each wielding a vast number of weapons in their hands. What he was seeing was each and every past member of the Power Rangers legacy. The past Rangers silently stared at Bakugou as if they were daring him to attack. For the first time in his life, Katsuki Bakugou felt something that he hadn't felt before: fear. When he blinked, the army of Power Rangers he saw vanished from his sight as he was beyond confused with what he saw. He then took a look at the Hero Force Rangers, who was still looking at him intensely. For once in his life, Bakugou didn't say anything back as he was still freaked out by what he just saw. So he slowly got up from the ground with his bag in hand and walked out of the front gate at a slow pace. Unknown to the Rangers and bakugou, their conversations had a few spectators watching for the higher levels of the school as they looked at them through the windows. Uraraka, Tsuyu, Setsuna, Mina, Pony, Shiozaki, Ryuko, Kanoko, and Toru all watched as the teens went their separate ways from each other. The eighth of them had been listening in for most of the conversation, and while they weren't able to hear all of it, they did manage to catch some sentences when the Power Rangers and bakugou were yelling at each other before bakugou started to walk away as if he had seen a ghost. Wow, those guys really don't like bakugou at all, Mina said out loud. He's a big jerk, Pony commented badly about bakugou. Yeah, it looks like they were about to pound on him all at once, Toru said. Can't really blame the Rangers for being mad at bakugou, since he was the one who was bullying Midoriya from start at it. Tsuyu added. Yeah, the guy's a major asshole if you ask me. Setsuna committed. I think we just witnessed the start of a rivalry between them. A battle between men, Hirakara exclaimed as she didn't know the real reason. I just hope they can work out their differences with one another. Shiozaki prayed to God. Might be impossible with how bakugou treats the people around him like garbage, Ryuko said with a frown. But what are Kendo and Yaoyorozu doing down there with them? Kanoko asked as the other girls didn't have an answer. After bakugou was out of their sight, Midoriya let out a heavy sigh. Hey Midoriya, you good man? Ren asked his friend. To be honest, I don't know, Midoriya said turning his way. But I would like to thank you guys for finally opening my eyes to the truth. Me and bakugou are no longer friends, he said with disappointment in his voice. It's okay Midoriya. If anything, you should feel proud of yourself for giving him a piece of your mind, Kendo said to him with a smile. Yeah, it was really satisfying to see you lay on him like that, Jiru said to him. You are cool, Yui said giving a thumbs up. Hopefully, he's gotten the message, Momo said to them. Seeing the look on his face, I think he did, Holo Tommy said appearing in front of them. You all did well today, especially you Midoriya. You not only beat your former bully but showed him the type of person you became. Thanks, but it wasn't much really, Midoriya said rubbing the back of his head. No need to be so modest young Midoriya. The Rangers turned around to see All Might behind them with his usual smile. You did what any other person would have done in your position, All Might said walking up to the group. All Might, what are you doing here? Midoriya asked in surprise. To be honest, I was here this entire time. I ended up hearing your whole conversation with young bakugou. All Might rubbed his head in embarrassment. Anyway, I came here to congratulate you all on a job well done in your battle trail, and thank you, young Rangers, he said confusing the group. Thank us? You lost me, sir, Momo asked the pro, for helping him wake up and realize what kind of school UA is, All Might said to them. The Rangers understood what the #1 hero meant as a victory over bakugou would help the young man wake up in a sense. All his life bakugou was praised for his quirk. Teachers and parents would go to him, telling him how amazing his quirk is. It got to bakugou's head and made him think highly of himself and not so much of others. When he came to UA, the spiky-haired teen was convinced he would dominate the field and lead the class. After being defeated by Midoriya, not to mention seeing his other classmates in action was a rude wake-up call for bakugou. It showed him that he wasn't on top and that his dreams to be the #1 hero may not be as easy as he thought. It's not a big deal, All Might. Besides, that guy needs someone to knock him down off his high horse, Ren said to them. You all definitely gave him a reality check, Holo Tommy said to them. I bet when he gets home, bakugou going to have a nice long time thinking about his life choices. Indeed, his actions have consequences and now he's paying for it, All Might said with a nod before looking at Kendo and Yaoyorozu. Young Kendo and Yaoyorozu, I see you both were made into Power Rangers by the Master Morpher. Kendo and Momo looked at him with a smile before showing their morpher to everyone. Yes, as of right now, me and Momo are now members of the Power Rangers Hero Force, Kendo proudly said. Indeed, I'm happy to let you know that Ren made me second in command of the team, Momo said with honor. Whoa, second in command. Nice job moving up in the world, Momo, Jiru said to her, a girl with Momo slightly blushing from the compliment. Guess this makes us teammates now, huh? Midoriya said with a smile. Yui happily said with one of her classmates joining the team. Kendo slightly giggled at the compliment. I see, well done you two on joining the Rangers, All Might said to the girls. Thanks, they both said to the hero before frowning a bit in concern. Also All Might, we should tell you that we know about your condition, Momo said with a little hesitation. And about one for all and Midoriya being your successor, Kendo adds in her own hesitation. This made the symbol of peace in his successor's eyes widen in surprise. But how do you? Before All Might could ask, Ren answered the question. I told them when we went over the Power Ranger history. Ren said. You told them about One for All? All Might asked with a shocked look on his face. But don't blame him for it. Since everyone on the team knows about your powers, it wouldn't be fair to tell the girls since they'll be working with us. We already got the green light from Nezu to tell them about your quirk. Also, Kendo and Yaoyorozu both promised to keep One for All a secret. Holo Tommy explained to him. I see, I guess it's okay since you trust them to keep our secret. All Might said, his hand on his chin in thought. Young Yaoyorozu and Kendo, I entrusted the secret of One for All be kept between this group. Of course, we would say a word to anyone. Momo said with her hand on her chest. We will, but it's pretty crazy. Kendo said out loud. Learning about your quirk, your 3-hour time limit, the Power Rangers, and the extinction of other worlds. This is just too much for one day, she said holding her hand on her head. I know that feeling. I had the same reaction as you when I found out, Jiru said having the same feeling. I know that this is a lot to take in, Holo Tommy said to them. That's for sure, Kendo commented, still having a hard time believing it herself. Your lives and how you view your horizons have changed in ways you probably couldn't have imagined. And this also goes for the veteran members of the team, Holo Tommy said to his students. But as long you work together, and remember you are a team, no one can defeat you. No one, because Power Rangers are truly at their best when they work together as one. The Hero Force Rangers traded glances with one another before smiling at their mentor. Well said, Tommy, spoken like an experienced hero, All Might said to the AI. You kids may be Power Rangers, but you still need a lot of work to become excellent heroes in the future. We won't let you down, All Might, Ren said to the hero. And you to Tommy. Well, be the best Rangers. That's will to the Power Rangers is legacy, Momo said with a confirmed smile. Some here, Kendo said with her own smile. I'll be sure to live up to being your successor, All Might, Midoriya said to his hero. It may not be today, but I will master One for All and become the next symbol of peace. Jiru and Yui nodded in agreement as they smiled too. Hahaha, I know you kids will, because you are the Power Rangers. All Might laughed with confidence. Well, he was laughing. Ren couldn't help but ask a question that had been bugging us. All Might, can I ask you something? Ren said, making the hero stop laughing. What is it, Amamiya? All Might said his student. It's about last night with the whole Yakuza thing. How did it go? Ren asked the hero as it confused his teammates. All Might Demander changed to a serious expression as he answered the question. Everything went surprisingly well with thanks to the information you provided us with, young Amamiya. We managed to capture a lot of dangerous listed villains who had been in hiding for years. All Might said, clenching his fist as he remembered the whole child abuse Unsured incident. From all my years of being a hero, I never felt such satisfaction in taking down a criminal organization. I hoped you made those assholes suffer, Ren asked in a hopeful tone. Oh, believe me, young Amamiya, me and the other pro who joined in on the raid had a field day, All Might said with a smile as he can remember the events of last night. I'm sorry but I'm lost here. Just what are you two talking about? Momo asked them. Yeah, you mean filling us in on? Kendo asked as well. That's right, I've never really got the chance to tell you, Ren said out loud. You remember that little girl that was with me? Yeah, how can we not? Jiru said with a raised eyebrow. Her name was Eri, right? Midoriya asked, getting a nod from him. Speaking of her, where is she? He asked, not seeing her with him. At her quirk test. I made a clone of myself to keep a watch on her, Ren said to him. Who's Eri and what's this about a test? Yui asked, being the only one who hadn't seen Eri yet. Okay, everyone listen up because I'm going to explain this once, Ren said as he began to tell them about yesterday's event. After a few minutes of explaining in detail everything from meeting Eri and Chisaki, fighting Chisaki, and capturing the villain, reading both his and Eri's memories, Eri's quirk, and Chisaki's plan to destroy Hero Society. When he was done explaining, his whole team was beyond shocked and disturbed with the Yakuza villain. Oh my god, Jiru said, unable to find the right words. That poor little girl, Momo said with widened eyes as she was covering her mouth. Yui remained quiet with a stunned look on her face at what Ren told them. How? Why? Midoriya was unable to think straight with mixed feelings of sadness, confusion, and anger. To make a drug that erases a person's quirk by using the blood and flesh of a little girl is just wrong. Who could ever do something like that? Especially to a little girl. He balled his fist up in frustration. Scumbags. Horrible, disgusting scumbags, that's what. Kendo said in a quiet rage. Yeah, a bunch of good-for-nothing scumbags that got what was coming to them, Ren said with rage. Which is why I'm going to do everything in my power to return Eri's happiness back to her, he declared. You can count me in too, Midoriya said with a determined look. I want to help Eri. I'm in too. That little girl needs to forget everything about those villains. Kendo said as well. I can play her some music. I know a few that she might enjoy. Jiru said, thinking up a list. I'll lean my assistant in any way. My family has a number of amusement park, so taking her to one will brighten up her mood. Momo suggests to her friends. Yui said with a determined look in their eyes as she wanted to help Eri. All Might and Holotommy just watched and listened to their students coming up with different ways to cheer up Eri. They couldn't help but be proud of how far they were going to bring a little girl's happiness back. Unknown to them, All Might make a small frown with something he didn't tell the Rangers. I can't tell them that Overhaul and a few of his lieutenants escaped last night. All Might thought in concern as he got a call from Tsukachi about the villain's escape from his cell. Young Amemiya has already done enough. This is something we adults will have to worry about. Kamino, Yokohama City, bar night. In a poorly lit bar, there were dangerous-looking people with quirks hanging around there. On the counter was a man with hands all over his body. He was reading a newspaper that had All Might on the front page, talking about his teaching job. This man's name is Tamura Shigaraki. He is a slim man with pale skin, tinged yellow teeth, and wrinkled a great deal around his eyes. His lips are chapped and uneven, with a small mole on the right underneath, with visible scars on his right eye and under his lip. He has messy grayish-blue hair of varying lengths, the longest clumps reaching to about his shoulders, left hanging over his face in uneven waves. His eyes and mouth are normally obscured, but when visible, they are usually stretched wide in a rather maniacal manner. Their bright red irises very small. So the symbol of peace has started to slow down. He is still the #1 hero and called the symbol of peace for a reason. But what if the symbol of peace got snuffed out? Tamura said, putting down the newspaper's paper. Did you see this? It says he's a teacher. Hey, what do you think happen if the symbol of peace is killed by villains? Tamura said as he placed a glass on the newspaper. Behind the counter was a man with a warped body with a bird-like muscular creature sitting in the back of the bar. The other man's name was Kurajiri. His entire body is made out of a dark purple mist, save for his eyes, which are glowing yellow. He normally wears a very elegant suit with a tie and has a metal brace that goes from around his collarbone to just below his eyes. Tomorrow is a very important day, Tamura Shigaraki, Kurajiri said, wiping a glass clean. We must be extra cautious and prepare well. Yeah, I know, Kurajiri. We have to infiltrate the enemy guild base and steal their schedule for job quests, Tamura said, talking in gamer logic. And once we do, the symbol of peace days are numbered, Kurajiri said, putting down the glass. Which is why failure isn't an option. A chilling voice said on the TV monitor as he was talking through it from another location. Master, Torma said, looking at the TV screen. Torma Shigaraki, I have trained you well in the art of villainy. Now it's time you took what I taught you and us it against those who oppose you. The voice said to his student. The doctor specifically gave you that Namu in order to defeat All Might. With it, no one will be able to stand in your way. Yes, Master, I'll be sure to put it to good use, Torma said in a grateful tone. Along with the rest of our party members, the final boss and his underling don't stand a chance. He smiled evilly. That's what I like to hear from my successor. But first, you must retrieve the schedule at UA. After that the real mission begins. The voice said to him. Be ready for anything, Torma, because in the next few days, the world will know who was responsible for killing the world's greatest hero. Now is the time for the League of Villains to show the world true fear. Shai Hasekai's secret hideout night. Somewhere, in an abandoned warehouse, the remaining members of the Shai Hasekai who weren't arrested by the pro-heroes were working over the clock to make this place a good base of operation. Chisaki meanwhile was beyond annoyed by this situation. The police froze his bank account and any other source of funds he had on him, and his maid-do hideout was filthy, as his noise was bothering him. Then Kurono walked up to Chisaki to report his findings. So did you learn anything about this kid? Chisaki asked Kurono about Ren. Yes, young master. One of our men saw a boy matching your description, with a horned little girl this morning around the shopping center. Kurono reports to his boss. Apparently the boy is a UA student. Overhaul had an annoyed look on his face upon hearing that. He lost his tool to a wannabe hero in training and now UA knows about her existence, which will make things much more difficult for his business in the future. Any more information on who the kid is? Chisaki asked. Not yet, we're still looking into that. But we will have it soon, Kurono answered. The moment you find out who he is, I want you to tell me immediately. Understand? Chisaki said in a cold tone. Also have our tech guys hack into UA servers to learn more about him and be sure to contact the info broker. Yes, young master, Kurono said before leaving the room. Chisaki was growing in patience by the second. He had to start over again to create more drugs to erase the hero's quirk. He can't wait to get Eri back and make the brat pay for messing up his business. Power Rangers Hero Force members. Ranamamiya Ranger forms, leader of the Hero Force Rangers. Izukumidoriya Ranger forms, Green Mystic Ranger, quirk, one for all. Yui Kodai Ranger forms, Red Overdrive Ranger, Megaforce Pink, quirk, size. Kyokajiru Ranger forms, Jungle Fury Wolf Ranger, Yellow Dino Ranger, quirk, earphone jack. Momoye Yarazu Ranger forms, Red Samurai Ranger, quirk, creation, second in command. Itsuka Kendo Ranger forms, Jungle Fury Yellow Ranger, Jungle Master Yellow Ranger, quirk, big fists. And 12 more Rangers to join. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 8. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.